Football, starting with the templates of Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, and Cristiano Ronaldo. Welcome back, brave explorers of impossible worlds. We are excited to have you here to continue this odyssey together. Before we continue, everything you'll hear is pure fiction. So please don't try to replicate combat techniques at home. This wonderful story in all its rights belong to its brilliant original author. We are only the messengers of entertainment. Want another dose of adventure? Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single chapter. And if you can't wait, our Patreon has exclusive surprises you'll love. Chapter 1 Ye Luo, the Troublemaker, System Activated. Chapter 1, Ye Luo, the Rebellious One, System Activated. Parallel World, Blue Star. November 11, 2010. A football field on the outskirts of Málaga, Spain. Move to the wing. Move to the wing. Move. I'll F you. Get past me. A middle-aged man with black hair and yellow skin stood on the sidelines, loudly directing the game, occasionally blowing his greasy bangs on his forehead. On the field, two teams of young players were fiercely competing. The scoreboard on the sideline showed the scores of the two teams. On the bench, Ye Luo, who had just finished warming up, walked to the sidelines. Coach Ye Luo, with his neat short hair, fair skin, and handsome features, known as the Beckham of China, approached Li Tai, the head coach of the Chinese Olympic team, who looked very anxious as he directed the game. This Olympic team was formed to prepare for the 2012 London Olympics. It was 2010, 2 years before the Olympics. Therefore, the players' ages are mostly between 20 and 21 years old, because the age limit for Olympic football is under 23. However, Ye Luo is the only exception. He is certainly not an overage player, but a young player who is not yet 18 years old. He was promoted from the national youth team to the national Olympic team. Li Tai turned to look at Ye Luo, forcing a smile. The reason it was a forced smile was because he really disliked Ye Luo, this troublemaker. This guy has not been very obedient since joining the team, especially in terms of tactical execution. He is completely self-willed, disorganized and undisciplined, and he especially likes to cut inside and shoot. So under normal circumstances, this kid doesn't get many opportunities to play. But the current situation on the field is unfavorable for the Chinese Olympic team. The Olympic team's opponent is the Getafe U21 youth team. Although it is called U21, the opponents are generally 18 or 19 years old. Even just looking at the ages on the data, the Chinese Olympic team is 1 or 2 years older than their opponents. Moreover, the results of the Chinese youth team have always been better than those of the adult team. The reason, of course, is related to age falsification. Playing against younger players, it would be surprising if the result wasn't good. After all, even a 1-year age difference in youth teams makes a significant difference in physical ability, let alone a difference of several years. Li Tai had hoped this warm-up match would give the team some confidence in preparation for the Malacca Cup International Youth Invitational Tournament in a few days. But what happened? The Getafe U21 youth team, whose players were 2 years, or even 3 or 4 years, younger than the Chinese Olympic team, beat them 3-0 in less than half-time. Fortunately, this was an internal warm-up match, otherwise, there would have been a huge uproar in China. Li Tai hadn't originally planned to use Ye Luo. The reason wasn't complicated. Ye Luo was a player who skipped a grade, very strong, but lacked emotional intelligence. This kid had been with the team for over a month and hadn't even shown any appreciation. However, Li Tai also knew that a team couldn't be entirely composed of nepotism players. There needed to be some capable players to ensure his position as head coach was secure. Xiao Yi, when you come on, get the ball more often, break through to the byline and cross, find the tall striker. Li Tai put aside his own thoughts and began to explain the tactics. Ye Luo looked at the tall, clumsy Chinese Olympic team player on the field, who was holding his head in frustration. He had failed to get the ball in again. He was very tall, but his physique was like a stick. He had very little muscle. His physical strength was severely lacking, and his center of gravity was high. In the penalty area, he was like a sailboat being tossed about by the waves, drifting with the current, easily losing his position if the opposing center-back pushed him even slightly. Now, 10 minutes into the second half, and more than 50 minutes into the game, Ye Luo hadn't seen that clumsy player perform anything trustworthy. He couldn't get the ball in. He couldn't get into position. He couldn't hold his ground. He hadn't even touched the ball a few times. With this kind of performance, how could he be selected for the Olympic team and even play as a starter? No wonder many people in the team were just tanking and didn't think this Olympic team had any chance of making it to the London Olympics. Coach, you know this is useless, right? He simply doesn't have the ability to compete with the opposing center back. Forget about getting a header, he can't even jump properly in a challenge. Can he play center forward like this? No way. He doesn't have the ability, you know that. Ye Luo pointed bluntly at the field. He knew perfectly well why that tall striker had joined the national Olympic team. What else could it be? Bribes, of course. Ye Luo wasn't stupid, he was well aware of the unspoken rules of Chinese football. Get playing time? Bribes pave the way. Li Tai's face darkened. This kid has some talent, but he's difficult to manage. Chinese coaches have the biggest headache with players like this. On one hand, he has the ability. When you really need a victory to secure your position, you have no choice but to use him. On the other hand, this kind of troublemaker doesn't give you any face when he speaks. Sometimes he even makes you lose face. Like now. Ye Luo's voice reached the bench, causing the veteran players on the bench to turn their heads. Over the past month, they've truly witnessed just how troublesome China's Beckham can be. But he undeniably possesses talent. He's incredibly fast. His cut-in shots are powerful. At least compared to other players of his age group in China's football scene, Ye Luo's abilities are top-notch. These are the assets that give him his troublesome reputation. However, sometimes too much rigidity leads to failure. For example, many of the national Olympic team players on the bench are now wearing sneakers. That tall striker is a key player for the team, not because he's exceptionally talented, but because he's a connected player. His family has connections with higher-ups, and he's given Coach Li Tai substantial benefits. Of course, he gets to start every game. And not only does he start every game, but he also demands that other players play around him, playing long balls and crossing from the wings. He's treated like a core player. Many players naturally dare not speak out against this. It's incredibly difficult for young players in China's football scene to break through. It's not just about ability. Li Tai's a legendary figure in Chinese football, wielding considerable influence. He also maintains a close relationship with Chang Zuiyan, the newly appointed general manager of the Chinese Football Association. This is one of the reasons Li Tai secured the position of head coach of the national Olympic team. Li Tai was shocked and furious that Ye Luo would make trouble at this crucial moment. No way? He got 500,000. If I can't even secure a starting position, how am I supposed to survive? I can't ruin my reputation. Damn it, this kid is really difficult to deal with. I should have known better. Li Tai thought to himself. He took a deep breath, blew on his bangs, and suppressed his shock and anger. Difficult as he was, he really needed Ye Luo now. Ye Luo was fast and had strong dribbling skills. Having him break through from the wing and cross was indeed a good way to break the deadlock. Although Li Tai received a hefty bribe, as one of the few players in Chinese football history to have a place in the top 5 European leagues, he certainly possessed the ability. He squinted at Ye Luo and said, "Whether he's good or not is none of your business. I'm the head coach, you just need to execute my tactics." Ye Luo sneered. The excitement he felt upon arriving at the national Olympic team a month ago had long since vanished. As a transmigrator from a parallel world, he was a fervent football fan in his previous life, but had never received systematic football training. In this life, he had this opportunity, especially since his physical talent was considered quite good in China. So he cherished it all the more. But he hadn't expected that even in this parallel world, the Chinese football scene was still a mess. Ye Luo had long since lost patience. A mocking smile appeared on his lips. The next second, he froze. A mechanical voice sounded in his mind, "Ling. The strongest football system activated, Ling. You have gained a system selection opportunity. Option 1, swallow your pride and go on the field. Reward, Ninja Turtle buff. Option 2, refuse with domineering attitude. Reward, SSS level newbie gift pack." Chapter 2, The Strongest Beginning. The fusion of the 3 Luo templates. Chapter 2, The Strongest Beginning. The fusion of the 3 Luo templates. Ye Luo was stunned. A system? A cheat code? Ye Luo had seen it all before. He immediately ignored Li Tai beside him and focused all his attention on the system. Option 1? Hair. How could that be? He decisively chose option 2. Seeing Ye Luo's expression, Li Tai thought the other party had given in. He felt a surge of smugness. So what if he has the ability? If he wants to play, he still needs the permission of the head coach. And how he plays after he's on the field will be arranged according to his instructions. Genius? Hairhead. The Chinese football circle is not lacking in geniuses. But whether they can make it big is another matter. Li Tai sneered inwardly, but squeezed out a friendly smile on his face. He still needed his kid's hard work in the Malacca Cup Youth Invitational Tournament in a few days. He softened his tone, saying, Xiaoyi, I know your abilities. As long as you follow the coaching staff's arrangements, I'll let you start in the Malacca Cup match against the Malaga youth team in a few days. A slap followed by a sweet treat. Li Tai was quite shrewd. Ye Luo smiled slightly upon hearing this. Li Tai assumed Ye Luo agreed, and similarly gave a slight nod, placing his hand on Ye Luo's shoulder, preparing to say something encouraging to get Ye Luo to work for him. Coach Li, I have a big appetite, but I don't eat everything. Ye Luo's lips curled into a smile, his face revealing undisguised mockery and disdain. He stared at Li Tai and said, I originally thought that the National Olympic team led by a legendary figure in Chinese football would have some new prospects, but I didn't expect it to be just another piece of shit. Li Tai's hand froze. His expression seemed frozen solid. His eyes showed shock and confusion. This kid, is he really impervious to both soft and hard tactics? Why is he going against me? Hasn't Chinese football always been like this? Everyone's here to make money. This kid actually came to play football? Li Tai instantly sobered up, both shocked and furious. Do you know what you're saying? You? Before he could finish, Ye Luo sneered, Of course I know what I'm saying, and I know the consequences. Good that you know. If you don't play today, you know, I can make sure you can't survive in the Chinese football scene. Li Tai sneered. The pretense was over, and he stopped pretending. Can't survive. Ye Luo laughed loudly. Then he ripped off his training vest. Rip, I've long since given up on this cesspool. Li Tai's expression froze. He suddenly remembered that this kid had terminated his contract with his domestic club before coming to Spain, making it quite difficult for him to control him. Now it seemed, this kid had planned this all along. However, Li Tai wore I'm doing this for your own good expression. Xiaoyi, it's not easy to make it abroad. You think you can succeed there? You're incredibly naive. There are tons of players like you overseas. The Chinese media hypes you up, calling you a genius, the Beckham of China. But who are you abroad? The Chinese Super League is just entering a golden age. Everyone plays football to make money, and athletes only have a decade or so to earn that much. If you miss it, you've missed it forever. Li Tai spoke earnestly, but with an implicit threat. With Hente Group taking over Chongzhou FC, their big spending signings and higher player salaries have made the Chinese Super League, previously unpopular domestically, a hot commodity. They're even selling broadcasting rights now, and player salaries are skyrocketing. A young player like Ye Luo, with some fame, will definitely attract the attention of teams invested in by real estate groups. But if Ye Luo offends Li Tai, given Li Tai's influence in Chinese football, he won't be able to reap this wave of benefits. Coach Li, whether I can make it or not, I'll have to figure it out myself and bear the consequences. But I have one flaw, I can't stand things like this. Ye Luo had long been prepared to venture abroad. If he couldn't play in the top 5 leagues, he could go to a lower-tier league, or even a league in a small Central and Eastern European country. That would be much better than staying in China. Ye Luo had also figured it out. Those who truly want to play football in China can only compromise their integrity if they stay in the domestic football scene, otherwise, they'll find it impossible to progress. Therefore, Ye Luo had made up his mind to escape this cesspool. He wanted to stay in Europe. This trip abroad with the National Olympic team was an opportunity. With so many countries in Europe, he could try them one by one. If he couldn't make it in La Liga, he could try the Segunda División, the Portuguese Primeira Liga, or the Portuguese Second Division. He had already been selected for the Chinese National Olympic team, so he was practically a professional player. He would definitely get playing time. Li Tai wanted him to play for someone with connections? Absolutely not. He immediately took off his jersey, revealing his muscular physique, his muscles sculpted like chisels. Everyone couldn't help but turn their heads. Many members of the National Olympic team wore complex expressions. The brilliance of idealism can sometimes be truly painful. Ye Luo looked at the national flag on his jersey, a trace of sorrow flashing in his eyes. My country. My football. He cried out, his fingers tracing the jersey. He knew that once he took it off, putting it back on was probably impossible. Which young footballer didn't dream of the World Cup? Ye Luo gritted his teeth, turned around, and placed the jersey on the bench chair, leaving only his back view and the complex gazes directed at it. There was disdain, admiration, indifference, and even mockery. Li Tai watched Ye Luo's retreating figure, a complex emotion flashing in his eyes. Once upon a time, he too had shared the same passion, the same idealism. Li Tai, now fallen into the abyss, seemed to be stung. He even became somewhat hysterical. With such a lack of organization and discipline, he'll never get another chance. He's finished. He's completely finished. The Chinese football scene can't tolerate him anymore. Li Tai roared, pointing at Ye Luo's back. It was unclear whether he was roaring at Ye Luo or at his own past and former ideals. Ye Luo didn't turn back, his steps becoming even more resolute. He didn't take Li Tai's warning to heart. He had already prepared to break with the domestic football scene. This warning was naturally useless to him. Besides, he now possessed the system. With his cheat code in hand, he refused to believe he couldn't succeed abroad. Ye Luo stepped off the field. Immediately afterward, the system's voice rang in his mind, Ling. You chose domineering rejection. Obtaining an SSS level newbie gift pack, Ling. Open the newbie gift pack, yes. Ye Luo silently replied, Ling. Newbie gift pack opened. Congratulations, you obtained SS level player templates 3, Ling. Congratulations, you obtained the SS level template, Ronaldo's breakthrough ability template, Ding. Congratulations. You have obtained the SS level template, Ronaldinho's ball control ability template, Ling. Congratulations. You have obtained the SS level template, Cristiano Ronaldo's shooting and scoring ability template, Ling. Congratulations. You have received 100 fusion points from the system. Note, template fusion requires fusion points. The fusion progress must be kept consistent to avoid unpredictable consequences. Since you have 3 SS level templates at the same time, the fusion progress may be very slow. Host, do you want to fuse them? The voices sounded continuously. Ye Luo was stunned. Ronaldo's breakthrough. Ronaldinho's ball control. Cristiano Ronaldo's scoring. If these were fused together, what kind of powerful monster player would they be? Slow? Even if it's slow, I still want to fuse them. System, what is the fusion progress for 1 fusion point? The fusion progress for 1 fusion point is as follows, please check. A light screen suddenly appeared in front of Ye Luo. According to the ability classification of professional players, they can be divided into 5 levels, CBASSS. Consuming 1 fusion point can directly fuse 100% of the C-level player template ability. Fusion points. 50% B-level player abilities, 20% A-level player abilities, 5% S-level player abilities, and 1% SS-level player abilities. Therefore, these fusion points are extremely important. They determine whether you can successfully fuse the 3 SS-level templates into yourself, making them your true abilities. Chapter 3, The 3 Luis United, the world's best capital. Chapter 3, The 3 Ronaldos United, the world's best capital. 100 fusion points can only fuse 30% of the abilities of Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, and Cristiano Ronaldo individually. However, these 30% combined are still incredibly powerful. Ye Luo took a deep breath and eagerly opened the system. SS level template ability, dribbling and breakthrough template reference player, Ronaldo Luis Nazário da Lima, also known as Ronaldo the Great, the phenomenon, template description, after fusion, gains the dribbling and breakthrough abilities of peak Ronaldo, including dribbling and speed. SS level template ability, ball control template reference player, Ronaldo de Assis Moreira, also known as Ronaldinho, template description, after fusion, gains the ball control of peak Ronaldinho. SS level template ability, scoring template reference player, Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro, also known as Cristiano Ronaldo, CR7, template description, after fusion, acquires the scoring abilities of peak CR7, including shooting inside the penalty area, long-range shots, headers, shot positioning and adjustments, etc. Ye Luo took a deep breath. Whether it's Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, or CR7, they are all superstars who have left their mark on football history. Their individual abilities are unparalleled. Ronaldo's dribbling and speed, Ronaldinho's ball control, and CR7's scoring ability are all among the strongest in history. Being able to acquire all three abilities simultaneously, Ye Luo knew this could propel him towards becoming the greatest player of all time. It would give him the capital to dominate an era. Ye Luo's hands were trembling slightly. He had a strong mental fortitude, but at this moment, he couldn't help but feel extremely excited. He absolutely had to completely fuse these three abilities. And once the complete fusion was achieved, he would undoubtedly become the best player in the world. Moreover, if Ye Luo could acquire even 30% of the strongest abilities of these three top players, that would be more than enough. Fusion. Fusion was essential. Ye Luo knew very well that while he might be considered somewhat talented in Chinese football, in the world of football, especially in developed regions like Europe and South America where talent abounds, his abilities were simply not outstanding. Speed? There were plenty of fast players. Cutting inside and shooting? Many others possessed that skill as well. Football is an industry with a very high attrition rate. If the goal is to play professional football, almost every age group will eliminate a large portion of the children. Those who ultimately make it to professional teams are extremely rare. The entire football industry is a giant pyramid. Those who can play in the top 5 European leagues are at the very top of the pyramid. Below the top is a massive base. The vast majority of people are at the bottom of the pyramid. Ye Luo understood this very well. Therefore, acquiring these three abilities was the foundation to ensure he could stand at the top. Of course, possessing these three abilities was one thing. Whether he can truly unleash his full potential is another matter. Ability isn't just about game stats. It's about being able to use it rationally and flexibly. He still has a long way to go. But at least Ye Luo's starting point is different. He now truly possesses the foundation to climb to the highest peak. As a warm current flowed through him, Ye Luo could clearly feel some changes occurring in his body. If he had a ball at his feet, he could even feel it. The football seemed to have become a part of his body. Opening the system, Ye Luo saw his attribute template. Name, Ye Luo. Nationality, China. Age, born February 14, 1993, 17 years old. Position, left winger, center forward, shadow striker, right winger. Ability rating, 72. Fusion template, ball control, SS level, progress 33%, dribbling breakthrough, SS level, progress 33%, scoring, SS level, progress 33%. Ability badge, none. Fusion points, 1 point. Ye Luo was slightly taken aback. I've added 30% of Ronaldo's dribbling skills, 30% of Ronaldinho's ball control, and 30% of Cristiano Ronaldo's shooting ability. How come my ability rating is only 72? Host, although you have obtained the abilities from 3 SS level templates, it doesn't mean you can fully unleash your potential. For example, in a game, every character's abilities are the same, but the power unleashed varies depending on the player controlling them. Oh, I understand now. Ye Luo also found it reasonable. For example, consider Yasuo. Would a challenger player and a bronze player control him the same way? Although they have the same abilities, how they are used varies from person to person. Therefore, he still has a long way to go to reach the top. But so what? He's already very lucky to have obtained these 3 ability templates. What he needs to do next is to strive to maximize these 3 abilities, or rather, his potential. Ye Luo clenched his fist. He's different now. He possesses the best potential in the world. Before this, his goal was simply to get playing time in the top 5 leagues. And now, his goal has become the best in the world. I want to become the best in the world. Ye Luo murmured. Hey. Hello. A broken Chinese voice rang in Ye Luo's ear. Ye Luo's attention shifted from the system. Suddenly, everything went black. Looking up, a middle-aged white man with a body like a rubber swimming ring came into view. The man had a slight smile on his face. His head was round. His chin was round. His belly sagged on a thin, dark brown leather belt, making Ye Luo worry that the poor belt might break at any moment under the weight of that lump of flesh. As if sensing Ye Luo's concern, Phil Norald pulled up his belt and asked in Spanish, "Do you speak Spanish? Or English?" To get closer, Phil Norald had already greeted him in the only language he knew, Chinese. A scout? That's right. This is Spain. one of the world's football centers. La Liga, which can rival the Premier League for the top league, is here. So it wasn't surprising to see a scout here. You can speak Spanish, Ye Luo said. Ye Luo had made thorough preparations for playing football abroad, with language being a key factor. After all, on the football field, teammates need to support each other. Language barriers are a major obstacle. Ye Luo had learned Spanish, Portuguese, German, French, and of course, English. While not fluent, he could manage basic communication. Phil Norald breathed a heavy sigh of relief. Oh, thank God. A kind smile appeared on his round face. I'm a scout from Malaga, my name is Phil Norald, just call me Phil. To be honest, I've been following you for 2 or 3 weeks. Phil looked Ye Luo up and down. From the stands, Ye Luo's physical condition wasn't apparent. Now, at first glance, he didn't seem as thin as he appeared from the stands. His arm muscles looked very well defined, and the skin on his arms was tan dark, but strangely, his facial skin was very fair. Did this kid wear sunscreen during training? Phil shook off the random thoughts in his mind. A slight smile appeared on his lips, and a friendly look appeared in his eyes. Would you be willing to go to Malaga for a trial? Phil asked. Chapter 4 Ye Luo, you have no way out. What does it mean when someone delivers a pillow when you're sleepy? This is it. Ye Luo was overjoyed. He had the ability, but lacked a platform. He had no connections in Spain. How could he find a team willing to accept him? Ye Luo's plan was to cast a wide net in Spain, trying out for various clubs. Of course, it was foreseeable that most La Liga teams wouldn't give him a trial. That was normal. Ye Luo was currently an unknown player. How could he possibly get a chance with a La Liga club? But if La Liga didn't work, the Segunda División would too. Ye Luo firmly believed that as long as he got a chance on the professional stage, he could make a name for himself. Unexpectedly, before he even started looking, a scout had already come knocking on his door. It was so smooth that Ye Luo couldn't help but wonder if this guy was a fraud. It wasn't Ye Luo's fault for being suspicious. When you're traveling, if you're not careful, you'll be taken advantage of. Seeing the doubt and distrust in Ye Luo's eyes, Phil Norald wasn't annoyed. It's normal to feel distrust towards strangers. Normal people are wary of strangers. However, he genuinely thought highly of Ye Luo. As a veteran scout for Malaga, he had been observing Ye Luo's performance in the Chinese national Olympic team. He was fast and had a powerful shot. With proper training, he had the potential to become a starter for a La Liga team's first team. Even if he couldn't be a starter in La Liga, being a substitute or being sold to a second division team in the future would still be a source of income for Malaga. Phil Norald pulled out a business card. Young man, this has my phone number and the address of the Malaga Youth Academy. Don't worry, this training invitation is definitely an official Malaga trial invitation. The trial won't cost you anything, and it even includes food and accommodation. If you're still worried, you can go to the Malaga training base yourself. It's just over an hour by train from here. I've already sent your match video to the Youth Academy. When you arrive, just introduce yourself. Phil Norald patted Ye Luo on the shoulder and turned to leave. This was the job of a scout. In Phil Norald's view, Ye Luo did have some talent. However, this talent wasn't strong enough to justify the price he'd pay to force Ye Luo to go to Malaga. He'd only given Ye Luo a trial invitation. He couldn't guarantee whether Ye Luo would pass. A scout's job was simply to submit scouting reports to the Youth Academy and recommend players. Whether the academy would ultimately retain the player was none of his concern. Ye Luo watched the departing figure of the large Spanish man, his mind flashing with information about the La Liga club Malaga. If he remembered correctly, Malaga would be significantly strengthened this winter transfer window, and their new head coach was the former Real Madrid coach, the Chilean engineer Pellegrini. Joining Malaga would indeed be a good platform for Ye Luo right now. If he could quickly integrate 3SS level templates, not many, just 50% integration progress, he'd be considered a top-tier star in La Liga. Pellegrini would have no reason not to be impressed, and becoming a star player at a club like Malaga wouldn't be an exaggeration. This fat man didn't seem like a con man. After all, he had no money on him. What could the man possibly swindle? Besides, Malaga was a La Liga club. If he remembered correctly, Pellegrini had just replaced O'Neill as Malaga's new head coach 2 weeks ago. For the next 2 seasons, Malaga would consistently finish in the top 4 of La Liga and qualify for the Champions League. Choosing Malaga as a stepping stone was perfect. So why not go? Ye Luo put the business card in his pocket and headed towards his hotel. Since things had fallen out with the national Olympic team, he might as well take this opportunity to slip away. He would take out his luggage, then take the train to Málaga. He would find a hotel near the Málaga Youth Academy to stay overnight, and then go to the Málaga Youth Academy for a trial the next morning. Meanwhile, inside the stadium, Li Tai walked to the side with his phone, talking to Chang Zuiyuan, the general manager of the Chinese Football Association. Mr. Chang, here's the situation. How do you think it should be handled? Li Tai asked. What else can we do? This troublemaker who disobeys the coaching staff, challenges the coach's authority, and is disorganized and undisciplined, dismiss him immediately and issue a public announcement explaining the reasons for his dismissal. Chang Zuiyuan said on the other end of the phone. Understood, understood. Li Tai nodded repeatedly. By the way, is there any problem with the Morocco Cup? The national team's performance has been poor lately, and the Olympic team needs to win a few games to boost fans' confidence in the national team and slightly improve the negative public opinion surrounding our national team. Ye Luo wasn't important. Chang Zuiyuan was concerned about the Morocco Cup. The Morocco Cup is an invitational international youth team tournament in Spain. 16 youth teams are invited to participate each year. This year, the Dragon Kingdom's Olympic team was also invited to participate, so the Dragon Kingdom's national television sports channel specifically purchased the broadcasting rights for the Morocco Cup. The Olympic team's performance in the Morocco Cup will then be watched by fans across the country. Don't worry, Mr. Chang, our first opponent is the Málaga youth team. They're sending their U18 team, with players only 17 to 18 years old. Our national Olympic team players are all over 20. Why would they be afraid of 17 to 18-year-old players? We'll definitely win this match. Li Tai patted his chest confidently. That's good. Chang Zuiyuan laughed on the other end of the phone. Do a good job, Zioli. I'll personally come to supervise this match in a couple of days. If the national Olympic team can qualify for the Olympics and go to London, a spot on the national team is reserved for you. Thank you for your guidance, Mr. Chang. Li Tai nodded repeatedly with a fawning smile. After hanging up the phone, the fawning smile turned into a cold laugh. Kid, you dare to challenge me? I'll see how capable you are. With this announcement, Ye Luo has completely lost his way in Chinese football. Chang Zuiyuan didn't take it to heart after hanging up the phone. Just a rebellious troublemaker. In his eyes, he could crush him with a single finger. What kind of trouble could he possibly cause in Chinese football? Impossible. Chinese football will not tolerate such unruly troublemakers. Disobedient? Then don't play. 30 minutes later, the official website and Weibo account of the Chinese Football Association simultaneously released an announcement. National Olympic team player Ye Luo openly refused the coach's arrangements, resisted the coach's tactics, and acted without organization or discipline. He is hereby expelled from the national Olympic team and banned from all levels of the national team for 2 years. This is hereby announced. The announcement caused a public uproar. Hell, so this is what Chinese footballers are like. Awesome, awesome, openly defying the coach. No organization, no discipline, no sense of national honor. How the hell can this football team ever get any better? Good riddance. Players like this should never be allowed into the national team. Only a 2-year ban? He should be banned for life. Ye Luo, is he that Chinese Beckham? What Chinese Beckham? Just a pretty boy with terrible skills and a big temper. Serves him right. Good punishment. In an instant, fans left angry comments. On the internet, truth often gives way to emotion. Ye Luo's Weibo was also flooded with angry fans. Instantly, tens of thousands of comments appeared. The public opinion was very unfavorable to Ye Luo. Inside the hotel, Ye Luo took off his scarf. Standing in front of the bathroom mirror, his short hair was neat and his delicate features still had a touch of youthful naivete. Of course, he knew that he didn't have the resources to fight against a football association. The other side was a behemoth. And he himself was just a nobody. So, if he went up against them now, he would definitely be crushed by the overwhelming public opinion. Unless he could become a behemoth that even the football association couldn't shake. Unless he could build his own monument in the football field. Football, the winner takes all. Ye Luo, you have no way out. Ye Luo said in a low voice. Chapter 5 Monster Genius. Chapter 5, Monster Genius. Just then, the system's voice rang out. Ding. You have activated the system's main quest. Sign a contract with the Málaga youth team. Quest rewards: 1. 1 fusion point. 2. 1 C-grade random gift box the next morning. The bright Iberian Peninsula sun shone on the grass of the Málaga Youth Training Academy. Inside the office building, on the desk of Bruno Schultz, the head coach of the Málaga U18 youth team, lay basic information about Ye Luo. Name: Ye Luo. Date of birth: February 14, 1993. Nationality: China. Height: 176 centimeters. Weight: 71 kilograms. Position: left winger, right winger, shadow striker, attacking midfielder. Strengths: fast speed, high success rate of cutting inside and shooting, powerful shots, not afraid of physical contact, generally satisfactory accuracy in attacking from the flanks. Weaknesses: limited attacking options, poor defensive positioning, inaccurate crossing, excessive desire to shoot. This is one of the players who came for a trial today. Phil believes he can get a chance in La Liga within the next year, Bruno said. His assistant, Enzo Rodriguez, showed considerable interest. This is certainly worth our attention. Phil Nordert is a veteran scout for Málaga, and players his side are indeed worth monitoring. Before the team's lads arrived at the training ground, the two coaches took some time to watch a video of Ye Luo's match edited by Phil Nordert. Good speed, powerful shots, and tenacious fighting spirit. However, his basic skills are a bit flawed. His shooting timing is also off. The two discussed. Just then, a phone call came in. Trial player Ye Luo had arrived. Let's go, let's see how good this Chinese talent really is. If it's just what he showed in the video, maybe he's still a little far from La Liga, Bruno Schultz said. Many players come to the youth academy for trials every year, but only a few manage to stay and establish themselves. Trials aren't a one-off deal, they involve a training process. This process involves training with the youth academy for a period, allowing coaches to observe the player's potential. During this time, trial players are responsible for their own food and lodging. Therefore, coming for a trial doesn't mean anything, it's just training alongside the team. What players need is to fully showcase their strengths during this training period, impressing the club's coaches to secure a contract. Ye Luo didn't immediately meet Bruno Schultz, the head coach of the U18 youth team. Before the trial, he had to undergo basic physical tests, mainly focusing on speed, explosiveness, and stamina. After the tests, Bruno Schultz received a physical report that amazed him. Ye Luo already possessed natural speed, and with the added 30% of Ronaldo's speed talent, his speed became even greater. His first 30-meter sprint time was 3.83 seconds. This kid is much faster than I imagined, assistant coach Enzo exclaimed. Maybe we've struck gold. Schultz smiled. On the football field, especially for a striker, speed is the purest talent. While physical fitness and strength are also related to talent, training can greatly compensate for any lack of natural talent in these areas. In other words, these can be developed through training. Only speed is entirely a talent. Trying to improve speed through training isn't entirely ineffective, but the rate of improvement is extremely limited. Some people are born fast. Of course, even among fast players, there are different types. Some have a fast start, while others have a fast finish. Relatively speaking, on the football field, players with a fast start have an advantage. Because the football field isn't a 100-meter track, speed tests in youth academies usually focus on 30-meter sprints, not 100-meter sprints. What does a 3.83-second 30-meter sprint mean? That's top-tier starting speed. It's comparable to Ronaldo's in his prime. Passing to yourself 3 seconds later is something only players with that kind of speed talent can do. Schultz naturally had more confidence in Ye Luo's speed. He couldn't help but feel a little regretful. What a pity. If Ye Luo, with such speed talent, had received training in Spain's youth system from a young age, he could at least be among the top players of his age group. He might even be a renowned prodigy now. China's backward youth training system is simply wasting such talent. Schultz shook his head regretfully, then put down the physical test data in his hand. Just looking at this data, Schultz would give Ye Luo a chance. Let him join the training. Ye Luo received his training vest. You'll be training with a U18 team for the next few days. Whether you can impress the coach to stay and sign a formal contract depends on your performance. Good luck, young man. The equipment manager smiled as he handed Ye Luo his training gear. Thank you, I'll stay, Ye Luo said. The equipment manager gave him a thumbs up. I like your confidence. Ye Luo smiled slightly. Staying with the Málaga youth team. Is it that difficult? It wasn't difficult at all. At least, right now, on the training field of Málaga U18, everyone from the coaches to the players had the same expression, mouths agape, blank stares, and eyes filled with fear and shock. Schultz felt his legs trembling. Luckily, he had sat down on a chair by the field beforehand. Otherwise, he might have plopped down on the field, which would have been incredibly embarrassing. It wasn't that Schultz wasn't calm, what was happening on the field was simply unbelievable. The training before the match had been normal. Shuttle runs, passing, rondo drills, etc. Ye Luo had easily integrated into everything. Schultz was satisfied. But until the intra-squad scrimmage began, everything was normal. And after the match started, everything completely veered off course from Schultz's expectations. The intra-squad scrimmage was divided into two halves, each 25 minutes long. And the result? Now, with 5 minutes left in the first half, Ye Luo had already scored 4 goals. Yes, 4 goals. 20 minutes, 4 goals. In the 3rd minute of the match, Ye Luo scored with a long-range shot. He then dribbled past 3 players on the wing, unleashing a powerful shot into the net one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Following that, he headed in a corner kick, out-jumping 2 center-backs to score. The final goal was a long run down the wing followed by a cut-in and a shot that schemed the grass into the top corner. A long-range shot. A series of dribbles and a one-on-one goal. A header. A cut-in from the wing. 4 goals. Each one spectacular, each executed in a unique way. He displayed a scoring ability that left the Málaga U18 coaches on the sidelines speechless. The Málaga U18 players were like children in front of Ye Luo. They were on a completely different level. Ye Luo seemed to have everything he wanted. He could shoot as soon as he got the ball. In 20 minutes, Ye Luo had already taken 8 shots and scored 4 goals. Enzo Rodriguez's hands were trembling. Damn, what kind of monster is this? Enzo, acting as referee, looked at Schultz on the sidelines. After exchanging glances, Enzo understood Schultz's meaning. This match couldn't continue. If it continued like this, the confidence of the Málaga U18 youth team players would be completely destroyed. A trial match had actually led to such a disastrous consequence. Enzo immediately blew the whistle, ending the match. The Málaga U18 youth team players breathed a sigh of relief. They looked at Ye Luo. Their previous contempt had completely vanished, replaced by fear. Where did this monster come from? Everyone thought with chills. Chapter 6 Update Plan. It's not signed yet, but it shouldn't be a problem. 2 updates a day until it's officially released. Updates will be at midnight and 6 p.m. the following day. Please vote and invest. The outline for this new book is over 1 million words. Investing in it will definitely be worthwhile. Chapter 7 Youth Team Contract. Chapter 6 The Youth Team Contract. Ye Luo truly felt relaxed. Back on the field, his feeling was completely different from before. The football seemed like an extension of his limbs. Cutting inside to shoot was already one of his signature attacking tactics. But now, his inside cuts were nothing compared to before. First, his touch on the ball control was vastly improved. A truly threatening attack is linked to perfect ball control. Ye Luo was positioned on the left wing, playing as a left winger, utilizing his right-footed inside cutting shooting ability. In this situation, the attacking strategy for Ye Luo's substitute group was to first launch a fierce attack on the right wing to open up the left wing, then switch the ball to the left with a long pass, creating space for the left winger to break through. This was actually part of the trial. Schultz wanted to see Ye Luo's ability when attacking with a ball. After all, according to the data, cutting inside to shoot was Ye Luo's signature move. With such a simple attacking tactic, Ye Luo surprisingly scored 4 goals in a short time. His ball control was excellent, and his acceleration was rapid. Especially his shooting positioning and accuracy are quite impressive, of course, impressive, considering he's added 30% of Cristiano Ronaldo's peak scoring ability. While Ronaldo is often criticized for his later transition to finisher-type striker, his ability to score so many goals wasn't without its secrets. His greatest strength is his timing of shots. In terms of shooting positioning, Ronaldo is probably the best in history. This is why his transition was so successful, from a powerful winger to pure scorer, still capable of wreaking havoc. Plus, Ye Luo has added 30% of Ronaldinho's ball control and 30% of Ronaldo's dribbling. This greatly enhances the threat of Ye Luo's signature cut-in shot. 3 Ronaldo serving Ye Luo, how could he not be lucky? What's wrong, coach? Ye Luo is in high spirits. Will scoring 4 goals in this training match impress the youth team coach? Should he try scoring a few more? Unexpectedly, Schultz stopped the match. Ye Luo had no choice but to run over and ask why. This kid's quite the social butterfly, Bruno Schultz thought. He looked Ye Luo up and down and said, "There's no need to continue this match. If it continues, you'll destroy my players' confidence." This kid scored a long-range shot, a dribble, a cut inside, and a header. He's practically showing off his arsenal. Young man, would you be willing to sign a youth team contract with Málaga? Schultz asked. Ye Luo was taken aback. Although he knew signing with Málaga wasn't too difficult, the actual opportunity to get a contract still felt like a huge weight had been lifted off his shoulders. Seeing Ye Luo's reaction, Schultz assumed Ye Luo was dissatisfied with only a youth team contract. He hurriedly explained, "This is within my authority as the youth team coach. I will immediately recommend you to the first team head coach. With your abilities, there's not much point in the youth team anymore. You need to gain experience in the professional league as soon as possible. As long as you can impress the first team head coach, a professional contract with the first team will soon be offered to you, as long as you can consistently demonstrate the abilities you just showed," Schultz explained. "By the way, do you have an agent?" Ye Luo? "Yes, Ye Luo, sir." Ye Luo couldn't help but correct him. Then shook his head and said, "I don't have an agent yet, but I can sign a contract with Malaga's youth team first, no problem. Sign a youth team contract first, complete the system task later. Besides, as long as he has enough strength, why worry about not getting a professional contract? The only concern is that the wealthy owner who bought Málaga will be struggling to keep the Málaga youth team super talent. The youth team's constraints are too weak. Ye Luo doesn't need to hesitate at all about signing the youth team contract." Hearing Ye Luo agree to sign, Schultz was overjoyed. He even neglected training, directly handing over the training tasks to assistant coach Rodriguez. Bruno Schultz accompanied Ye Luo to complete the contract signing, fearing Ye Luo might slip away during the process. He had to keep a close eye on him. Even professional players can disappear after boarding a plane and entering the medical examination room, let alone youth team players. After signing his name on a contract for the Málaga youth team, Ye Luo and Schultz both breathed a sigh of relief. "Congratulations, young man, you won't regret your choice today," Bruno Schultz smiled. "Yes, I will be starting from here," Ye Luo replied. Bruno Schultz patted Ye Luo on the shoulder. Ye Luo was now a player for the Málaga youth team. "Do you have a place to stay? The youth academy can arrange a house for you nearby. The rent is free. Also, you need to pick up your training equipment first. Our youth academy has a dedicated equipment management department. Remember, you don't need to take the equipment back to wash it yourself after each training session. It's about time today. You can officially join the training tomorrow," Bruno Schultz said. Ye Luo nodded, "Okay, coach." He also needed to find a place to stay nearby. Since the team could arrange it, it saved him the trouble. Besides, he knew he would soon leave the youth academy's training base and enter the first team's training base. He just needed an opportunity. An opportunity to get Pellegrini's attention. He believed the Chilean engineer couldn't possibly ignore him. After Bruno Schultz left, Ye Luo opened the system's task panel. At this moment, the main quest, signing for Málaga youth team, was completed. He received a reward of 1 fusion point. Fusion point balance. To Ye Luo's side. Why did all 3 templates have to be synchronized? Otherwise, he could have obtained the ability of a 100% SS level template right now. What a pity. Ye Luo's gaze turned to another reward, Rank C random gift box, chance to obtain Rank C item rewards. Ling. Open the Rank C random gift box? Yes. Ling. Congratulations, you have obtained the item, Rank C speed badge, Rank C speed badge, speed +1 description, a badge that increases speed. Note, only one badge of the same type can be equipped. Adds a little speed. I wonder how much a little speed is. Ye Luo frowned, thinking. After equipping this, Rank C speed badge, there was no feeling of warmth or a surge in power. It felt like equipping a fake badge. Just then, the system's mechanical voice sounded. Ling. You have triggered the main quest, Score the first goal in the match. Quest rewards, fusion points 2, rank C random gift boxes 2. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Top 10 Geniuses in History. Chapter 7, a top 10 talent in history scored his first match goal? It must be for Malaga's youth team. Ye Luo thought to himself. So, who will Malaga U18's next opponent be? Malaga U18 participates in the Spanish Juvenile A Youth League. This is the highest level of youth league competition in Spain. There are 7 groups, with 16 teams in each group. The group stage uses a home and away knockout system, and the group winners can participate in the playoffs, which is the Spanish Youth Championship League. The winner will be the Youth League champion for that season. He opened the Malaga club's official website to check Malaga U18's schedule. Malaga's Youth Academy's U-Series teams start from age 9 and go all the way to U21. However, U21 players generally train and play with a reserve team and no longer participate in the youth league. Moreover, players over 20 years old who want to pursue a professional career need to seek playing time in professional leagues. Those who can't play in La Liga can look for opportunities in lower-level leagues. The league system of any football powerhouse is extremely large. From the top-tier leagues to the grassroots regional leagues, there's a smooth path. Many La Liga players actually hone their skills in lower-level leagues before being discovered by La Liga teams and eventually appearing on the top-tier field. U18, Ye Luo frowned, looking at the screen full of Spanish text. He could speak some Spanish, but recognizing it was much more difficult than speaking it. However, Spanish is a Latin alphabet, so knowing the basic spelling rules meant he could read it. Therefore, Ye Luo quickly found the U18 schedule. The next match was the first group stage match of the Malacca Cup, against. Ye Luo's eyes widened instantly, then he suddenly realized, slapping his forehead. My memory. How could I forget this? The Malacca youth team, isn't that the national Olympic team's next opponent? The Malacca Cup. The domestic media is promoting it every day. Ye Luo couldn't help but get excited at this thought. The Malacca Cup isn't even considered a high-profile youth tournament in Europe, its reputation not even matching the WF Cup held domestically. However, the domestic media has been heavily promoting it recently because the Chinese Olympic team will be participating. Furthermore, the Malacca Cup is a youth invitational tournament, with invited clubs primarily sending their U18 teams, players under 18. Even disregarding age falsification, the Chinese Olympic team players are already 20 or 21 years old, at least 2 years older. In professional football, around 20 is a crucial age for entering the professional league. At this age, a 1-year difference is significant. While the Chinese Olympic team players appear to be 2 years older, they might actually be 3 or 4 years older. Therefore, participating in such a youth invitational tournament gives them a considerable advantage and a good chance of achieving good results. This is why the domestic media is promoting it so vigorously. Everyone anticipates that the Chinese Olympic team has a chance to win several big matches in the Malacca Cup. However, Ye Luo narrowed his eyes. His reputation in the domestic football circle is now practically non-existent. Accusations of arguing with a head coach, disobeying management, lacking organization and discipline, and having no sense of national honor were all slapped on his head. Ye Luo initially thought it would take a long time to clear his name. Unexpectedly, the opportunity came immediately. If only he could get a media interview after the match. Ye Luo closed the web page. Sleep. Maintaining good sleep and excellent physical condition. As an athlete, these are all part of self-discipline. Meanwhile, at the first team's training base, in the team's office building, head coach Pellegrini's office was still brightly lit. Malaga had been having a tough time lately. Former head coach Ferreira was dismissed after 9 rounds of La Liga. The reason for his dismissal was, of course, directly related to the results. In 9 rounds, Malaga had only managed 1 win, 2 draws, and lost 6 matches. With only 5 points, Malaga led the La Liga standings by only 1 point from 4 draws against Zaragoza, who hadn't won a single match in 9 rounds, placing them 19th in the league standings. After Ferreira's dismissal, former Real Madrid coach Manuel Pellegrini has taken over the team. Usually, A change of manager brings a change of fortune, and teams typically experience a small rebound after a change in management. However, Malaga's situation remains dire under Pellegrini's leadership. In the 10th round of the league, they lost 0-1 away to Espanyol. In the 11th round, they drew 1-1 at home against Levante. In the 12th round, they suffered a clean 0-2 away defeat to Deportivo La Corona. In the 13th round, they again lost 0-2 away to Málaga. Pellegrini has only managed 1 point in 4 games since taking over, causing an uproar in the local Malaga media. And to make matters worse, in the next round, the 14th, the team will face Real Madrid away. Of course, given Malaga's current form, they generally don't dream of getting points at the Bernabeu. However, this match might not be as simple as just not being able to get points. Rather, Málaga is facing a wounded beast. In the 13th round of the league, Real Madrid suffered a humiliating 0-5 defeat to Barcelona at Camp Nou. Marino's team suffered an unprecedented defeat. They desperately needed a big win to restore the team's confidence and to give an explanation to the fans and the Madrid media. It was under these circumstances that Pellegrini's team was highly likely to become Real Madrid's punching bag. Real Madrid's strength is beyond doubt. They are the team with the highest total squad value in the world. Málaga, facing Real Madrid, was like David standing before the giant Goliath, likely to be crushed underfoot. If they suffered another heavy defeat at the Bernabeu, the team's confidence would likely plummet to an irreparable level. Therefore, Pellegrini and his coaching staff were working tirelessly, hoping to lead Málaga to a safe exit from the Bernabeu. However, misfortune never comes singly. The team's key attackers, Uruguayan striker Bastian Fernandez and local winger Luke, are both likely to be absent due to injury. The only available strikers for this match are the Moroccan veteran Boja and the over 30 Portuguese player Dinho. Relying on these two old guys, it's unlikely they'll be able to put enough pressure on Real Madrid's defense. Marino's team can confidently push forward and completely dominate Málaga at home. The only good news for Pellegrini and his team is the 2-week FIFA international break after the 13th round of the league. The team has a 2-week rest and adjustment period. Plus, Real Madrid has a lot of national team players. Perhaps the international matches will affect Real Madrid, giving Málaga a slight opportunity? Just as Pellegrini was reviewing his team's recent defeats in his office, U18 youth team coach Bruno suddenly visited and said something that completely astonished Pellegrini. "Sir, a top 10 talent in history has emerged in my team." Note, the last sentence appears to be a separate, unrelated comment, not yet signed, 2 more chapters after signing. A huge release after launch. Everyone can collect and invest with confidence. Absolutely guaranteed quality, no deception. I'm asking for some recommendation votes. Chapter 9 Snap, so fast. Chapter 8 Snap, so fast. A top 10 all-time talent? Pellegrini stared at Bruno, trying to see a hint of a joke on the old youth coach's face. Or perhaps a sign of senile dementia. But alas, the old coach's eyes were bright and his expression resolute. He didn't seem to be joking at all. "Old Bruno, are you kidding me?" Pellegrini shook his head. He wasn't some inexperienced coach, he was Real Madrid's head coach last season. Pellegrini knew that some youth coaches would sometimes exaggerate a bit to recommend their protégés to the first team. But if you said, "I have a genius here," or "I have a super genius here," Pellegrini could tolerate it. But to casually mention the top 10 in history, that was a bit too much. Did he even understand what the top 10 in history meant? Seriously. What was this old man doing here so late? Besides, he didn't have time to pay attention to the Málaga Youth Academy. He'd only been with the team for less than a month. And now the team had only managed 1 point in 4 games. The coaching staff was under unprecedented pressure. Who had the mind to pay attention to the Youth Academy players? "I'm not joking, I'm serious," Bruno said. Pellegrini frowned, somewhat annoyed. He was already in a bad mood. Top 10 in history? You mean a little Messi came out of Malaga's Youth Academy? I don't have time to pay attention to the Youth Academy right now, Bruno. Malaga's first team isn't giving the Youth Academy any playing time either. What we need now are points, 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 do you understand? Pellegrini shouted. His voice attracted some members of Malaga's first team coaching staff and personnel who were inside the building, who peeked out from the doorway. "He's not Messi," Bruno said, shaking his head. "He's just a trial player, but he scored 4 goals in just 20 minutes in the intra-squad match. and in different ways, a long run past several players to score one-on-one against the goalkeeper, a shot from the left wing, a header overpowering a defender in the 6-yard box, and a beautiful long-range shot. He has a wide range of attacking methods. Although he lacks match experience, he has enough ways to torment defenders. Bruno smiled slightly. So, I think he would be the player you need, Mr. Pellegrini. And I think youth team matches are no longer very meaningful for a player like him. He needs to appear on the professional stage, and he should be given a professional contract. Pellegrini calmed down upon hearing this. A trial player, 4 goals in 20 minutes. This was indeed worth his attention. And Bruno was an experienced youth coach, his statement was not unfounded. I'm sorry, Bruno, Pellegrini apologized after calming down. He's been under a lot of pressure lately, but it's really inappropriate for him to lose his temper with a youth coach. It's alright, head coach, Bruno smiled. I have a full recording of his performance in this match here. You can take a look. Also, in 3 days we'll be playing a match against the Chinese Olympic team. Their opponents are 2 years older than us, and perhaps that match will put enough pressure on my lads. You can come and see his performance then. Taking the USB drive Bruno handed him, Pellegrini nodded slightly. I'll go see his performance. I hope he can surprise me. 3 days later, the national team players would leave, and the team wouldn't be practicing any tactics and training. The assistant coach would be in charge. So Pellegrini would have time to watch a youth team match. You won't be disappointed. I absolutely won't let you down. Before training started the next day, Bruno called Ye Luo to his office. When he told Pellegrini he wanted to observe Ye Luo's performance, Ye Luo almost jumped for joy. His smile was completely undisguised, his mouth practically stretched to his earlobes. What a straightforward young man. Bruno smiled as well. He knew, of course, that this was a rare opportunity for Ye Luo. Both of the team's main strikers are injured, and now we're relying on 2 veterans to carry the team. So, you need to perform well in this match and show off your scoring weapons to impress our head coach, Bruno said, patting Ye Luo on the shoulder. Don't worry, coach, I'll definitely completely impress our head coach. The first team hadn't won in several rounds. Their goal-scoring ability was worrying. 2 of their main strikers were injured. What a great opportunity this was. Ye Luo knew very well that it was very difficult for a typical youth academy player to get opportunities step by step. Unless it was in this situation, the main players were injured, and only youth team players could be called up. If they performed well and withstood the pressure, they were very likely to get opportunities. But if they didn't perform well, not only would they lose opportunities, but their confidence might also drop significantly. In Bruno's view, Ye Luo's individual ability had already reached the level to play in La Liga. But whether he was mentally prepared depended on how strong his mentality was. Now it seemed. Ye Luo was optimistic and always had a smile on his face, indicating that he was an outgoing and very sunny player. Such players often unleash their potential in more important matches. Go prepare for training. I'll be setting up tactical patterns around you these next few days. If you can't impress me in training, I won't let you play. Coach, don't worry, I can definitely do it, Ye Luo smiled. He then excitedly ran out of the head coach's office. As he stepped out the door, he clenched his fist tightly. Yes. Bruno, inside the office, smiled slightly at Ye Luo's reaction. As a youth team coach, he didn't actually care about the youth team's results. The youth academy's mission wasn't to win championships or a certain number of matches, but to cultivate sufficiently strong professional players. Therefore, using a player who had only recently joined the team as the core in a match was quite risky in professional football. But in youth team matches, it didn't matter, because winning or losing wasn't Bruno's primary consideration. Just then, Ye Luo, who had run out a short distance, suddenly turned back. Bruno looked up. What's wrong? He asked. Ye Luo gave a sharp, 90-degree bow. Thank you, coach. Bruno was taken aback. Then he laughed. It seems this kid has pretty good emotional control. He even remembered something like this in such an excited moment. The contract is signed. Starting today, there will be 2 updates, usually at midnight and 6 p.m. Please be aware, everyone. Also, I'd like to ask for more recommendations and investment. A super exciting start, and a super exciting ride all the way to the book's release. Chapter 10. Doesn't this show that Coach Lee has a good eye? During training, Ye Luo's U18 teammates sensed his excitement. Especially the young goalkeeper facing Ye Luo's shots in the intra-squad training match. He was practically dazzled by Ye Luo's attacks. However, Ye Luo was actually a very outgoing and energetic person, quickly becoming friends with his new teammates. His ability was undeniable. He was definitely a future La Liga star, so the U18 players certainly didn't want to offend him. Moreover, given the ability Ye Luo had shown, he might even become a top-tier superstar. Don't think that connections don't matter abroad. Those who say foreigners don't care about connections probably haven't integrated into their circles. After a day of training, Ye Luo returned to his residence and turned on his computer to check domestic football news. Sure enough, it was filled with news about the Morocco Cup, but all revolving around the national Olympic team under Li Tai's leadership. The team's preparations, pre-match press conferences, Li Tai's displayed confidence, etc., excited domestic fans. Fueled by the hype from the domestic media, this unremarkable Morocco Cup has become a well-known event, touted as a prestigious youth tournament in Europe and coveted by many top clubs' youth teams. Keep the hype going, the more hype, the harder I'll slap them in the face. Ye Luo thought to himself. His image in China was practically that of a traitor, especially given the already poor reputation of Chinese football. A scandal involving a Chinese footballer was news that not only fans but the general public loved to hear. In short, Ye Luo was now famous in a different way. And the way to clear his name was simple, he just needed to be strong enough. Because he was an athlete, not a trainee with 2.5 years of training. He didn't rely on his looks, he relied on his skill. As long as he demonstrated sufficient skill, even if he said nothing, fans would naturally speak up for him, clear his name, and exonerate him. Besides, how could he possibly say nothing? If he made a name for himself, say, by playing in La Liga. The pre-match press conferences and post-match interviews were all channels for making their voices heard. No matter how powerful the Dragon Kingdom Football Association was, could they really silence the entire national media? Besides, this was the internet age. Ye Luo, who was plotting how to deliver an even more devastating blow after the match, suddenly paused. Then a smile appeared on his lips. The system's mechanical voice rang in his mind. Ling. You have triggered a system-side quest. Slap the Dragon Kingdom Football Association in the face. Quest description: clear the Dragon Kingdom Football Association of its smears at the Morocco Cup and slap the Dragon Kingdom Football Association in the face in front of Dragon Kingdom fans. Quest reward: determined based on the quest completion score. In other words, the more ruthless the slap, the richer the reward. Ye Luo's motivation surged even more. He couldn't wait to get on the field, dominate, and slaughter the Li Tai national Olympic team. 3 days passed in a flash. During these 3 days, the Dragon Kingdom media's perspective focused entirely on the Dragon Kingdom's national Olympic team. They didn't notice any changes in their opponents, the Malacca U18 youth team. Or rather, they knew nothing about Malaga U18, and the Chinese fans had no interest in the youth team of a La Liga relegation-threatened team. The fans weren't interested, so naturally, the Chinese media didn't pay attention either. Therefore, an hour before the match, in the locker room, Li Tai, having received the opponent's starting lineup, frowned deeply. Ye Luo, he stared at the name of Malaga U18's number 7 player on the list. The name sounded familiar. Could it be that kid? Li Tai's frown deepened. Just then, his assistant, Guo Tao, the team leader of this national Olympic team, rushed in. He was supposed to be leading the players to the field for warm-ups. The match was being held at a public football stadium in Malaga. Although there weren't many spectators for the youth team's match, quite a few Malaga fans had come to watch, but warming up before the match and getting used to the field was still part of the match procedure. Old Li, guess who I saw? It's Ye Luo. That kid actually joined Malaga U18. Guo Tao said with a somewhat panicked expression. Not only did he join Malaga U18, he's also starting in number 7. Li Tai handed Guo Tao the official starting lineup that he had just obtained from the tournament. What? He's starting? Guo Tao exclaimed in surprise, then lowered his voice and asked, won't this cause trouble? Li Tai sneered, what trouble could there be? That kid has some skill, but he's not even 18 yet. We just need to watch out for his cut-in shots. Besides, it's not a bad thing for us, at least we know him well. Right. As long as he can't do anything in this match, there won't be any trouble. Guo Tao said. I'll go watch the warm-up. You guys think about how to neutralize him. I think he's definitely eager to show off since he got this opportunity to play, and he might even drag down the opponent's overall performance. Li Tai nodded, it's no big deal. Even if we don't win this match, we absolutely cannot let that kid have any chance to perform. You know what I mean, Guo Tao nodded, then rushed out. Just then, Li Tai's phone rang. Li Tai hurriedly answered the phone. President Cheng. What happened? How did that kid end up on the other side? Cheng Yuan on the other end sounded very displeased. Don't worry, President Cheng, it's just a small accident. The situation is still under control. Li Tai patted his chest and assured him. I've already made it clear that we absolutely cannot lose this match, and we can't let that kid have the chance to turn things around or make a name for himself. Understood. We're playing against a younger opponent, we definitely won't lose. Li Tai said, besides, that kid's strength is just so-so. He has some unique characteristics, and if we didn't know him well, we might have given him a chance to perform. But now, as long as we pay a little attention, he won't have a chance to showcase his strengths. It wasn't that Li Tai looked down on Ye Luo. It was just that he truly understood Ye Luo before. Being able to enter the national Olympic team at 17 years old certainly meant he had some ability. But in Li Tai's opinion, that was all. It wouldn't be difficult to neutralize such a winger, especially with some preparation. Moreover, Li Tai believed that Ye Luo was definitely eager to show off. He would definitely take the ball and try to go it alone, slowing down the Málaga youth team's attacking rhythm. If he performs poorly because of this and is substituted early by the Málaga youth team coach, wouldn't that make him seem even less capable, more troublesome, and with high emotional intelligence but low football intelligence? It would also make Coach Li Tai's judgment questionable. Please vote and continue reading. Chapter 11 The Unexpected Trouble Arrives. Chapter 10 The Unexpected Trouble Arrives. The program's source and a group of high-ranking officials from the Football Association sat in the stands. Aside from a few Málaga fans who came to watch the youth team's match, there weren't many Chinese fans either. Instead, there were many reporters. In the press box, sharp-eyed reporters immediately spotted Ye Luo on the football field. Oh my, isn't that Ye Luo, the Chinese Beckham? He actually joined Málaga U18? I thought his career in Chinese football was over, but it seems there's always a way out. It's not bad that he can make it abroad, but it's a real pity. With his ability, he should be a starter in the Chinese Super League in a couple of years. That was a chance to make a lot of money, and he missed it. What a pity. He's still too young. The reporters discussed animatedly. With Guangzhou Evergrande starting their big spending spree in the Chinese Super League, the transfer fees and salaries of Chinese players in the CSL skyrocketed. Given the ability of the Chinese national team players, most of them wouldn't even be able to secure a starting position in the Spanish second division. What are the salary levels for players in the Spanish second division? A starting player earning €500,000 a year is considered top tier. In China, however, a national team player's starting salary is 8 million RMB a year. Following current trends, a national team player could potentially earn 20 to 30 million RMB a year in the future. Therefore, in the eyes of these reporters, the opportunity to make a fortune that China's Beckham missed was simply due to his youth and naivety. Cheng Zuiwen, sitting in the center of the VIP section, could vaguely hear the discussions of the Chinese reporters below. He wore a slight smile, seemingly confident, but in reality, he didn't take Ye Luo too seriously. Just a kid not even 18 years old. He could be easily dismissed. So what if he could play abroad? Málaga is just a La Liga relegation team, and only their U18 youth team. If he could play for Malaga's first team, becoming the only Chinese player currently playing in one of Europe's top 5 leagues, then Cheng Zuiwen would have some concerns. Just U18? Whether they can even play in the professional league in the future is uncertain. So there's nothing to worry about. The camera focused on Cheng Zuiwen. On the television screen of the Dragon Kingdom's national television sports channel, a close-up of the general manager of the Dragon Kingdom Football Association, wearing a pink striped polo shirt, appeared before all the Dragon Kingdom fans watching the live broadcast on television. At the same time, the voice of Liu Jianhong, the sports channel's go-to commentator for the national team's matches, also reached the ears of all the fans through the television. Hello, viewers at home, this is the national television sports channel broadcasting the Malacca Cup Youth Invitational Tournament. The two sides are the Dragon Kingdom's Olympic team versus the Malacca youth team. As you can see, the general manager of the Football Association, Cheng Zuyan, is also here to supervise the match. This is part of the Olympic team's series of matches during their training trip to Europe. Playing against the youth teams of major European clubs will allow the Olympic team players to experience advanced European football tactics. Liu Jianhong's voice was incessant and rambling, causing many fans to frown. This commentator's bitter and resentful commentary style was really unpopular. And just then, the players from both sides had already appeared in the player tunnel. The Chinese Olympic team players all turned to look at Ye Luo, who stood at the back of the Málaga youth team's line. Their eyes held surprise, envy, or disdain. But no one went up to speak to Ye Luo. Although Ye Luo had only a few strained relationships with a few players in the Olympic team, he actually had no conflicts with most of them. They usually got along quite well. But because Ye Luo had offended Li Tai, the Olympic team players didn't dare to approach him at this moment. Ye Luo, of course, didn't take the initiative to greet his former Olympic teammates either. This match was a battle in his heart, a battle to prove himself. Both teams are exiting the player tunnel. It's worth mentioning that in the Málaga U18 youth team starting lineup, their number 7 player is none other than former Olympic team member Ye Luo. As the television camera focused on Ye Luo's face, the internet erupted. Holy crap! It's him. Wasn't this kid expelled for disobeying the team and being undisciplined? He was only expelled from the national team, not banned worldwide. What's going on now? A triumphant return? Trinity my foot. This kid even dared to talk back to the coach. And he has no sense of national honor whatsoever. He dared to cause so much trouble while representing the country, a rare sight indeed. He deserved to be expelled. But to be able to join the Málaga youth team, he must have some talent, right? Fans online were divided in their opinions. A small number sympathized with Ye Luo and spoke up for him. But most fans were furious. After all, people tend to follow the crowd. Under the media's influence, Ye Luo had already been portrayed as utterly wicked. How could he possibly be forgiven just because he joined the Málaga youth team? Ye Luo walked onto the field with the players. His eyes were fixed on the direction of the presidential box. Well, even the program's source was here to watch. It would be a shame not to make a big splash. Li Tai and his assistant Guo Tao stood on the sidelines. Won't something unexpected happen? My right eyelid keeps twitching. Guo Tao seemed a little uneasy. This was a nationally televised event. What would happen if something went wrong? Li Tai was also a little apprehensive, but he wasn't too worried. What kind of trouble could Ye Luo cause? Accuse him of accepting bribes? This was a football match, not a news interview. Would he even have the chance to speak? Besides, on the football field, performance speaks for itself. If you perform poorly, no one will believe you. Don't worry, I checked. This kid joined the Málaga youth team less than a week ago. He probably doesn't even know all his teammates. What kind of good performance can he expect? Guo Tao nodded in agreement. Football is a team sport. If he doesn't even know all his teammates, how can he have any chemistry or teamwork? Just as the two were talking, on the field, the referee blew the whistle to start the match. Alright viewers, with the referee's whistle, the match officially begins. Málaga kicks off first, the ball is immediately transferred to the left, to Ye Luo's feet. Ye Luo. Liu Jianhong, whose voice had been calm, suddenly roared. This instantly woke up all the fans who had been dozing off from his monotonous commentary. On the television screen, Ye Luo effortlessly controlled the long pass from the right. A beautiful touch? Before anyone could even marvel, Ye Luo suddenly flicked the ball with the outside of his right foot, then with a flick of his ankle, he dribbled past them. A cowtail. The ball passed between two defenders, and Ye Luo's figure suddenly disappeared before they could close the gap. A cowtail dribble. Ye Luo. Amidst Liu Jianhong's exclamation, Ye Luo dribbled towards the center. Then, a right-footed shot. Bang! Chapter 12. This moment shocked the whole country. Chapter 11. This moment shocked the nation. Bang! The loud sound drew everyone's attention to the field. The football soared into the air, its unspinning trajectory a bizarre arc. The Olympic team's goalkeeper had no time to react, watching helplessly as the ball flew into the net from the other side of his center of gravity. That was beautiful! Liu Jianhong exclaimed. Control the ball, a perfect dribble, a powerful shot. A flawless execution. So beautiful. This was everyone's sentiment. The goal was indeed incredibly beautiful. And the game had only been going in for less than 30 seconds. This left the Olympic team players on the field looking bewildered. Especially the two players who had been beaten by Ye Luo. They exchanged glances, their eyes filled with shock and disbelief. They had already gone up to close the goal. Normally, shouldn't they have controlled the ball, assessed the situation, and then passed it back, aiming for a clean break? Who could have imagined Ye Luo would take such a risk, be so daring, and possess such excellent technique? The two of them thus became Ye Luo's backdrop. Meanwhile, Li Tai was furiously cursing. Li Tai was unprecedentedly angry. Before the game, he had emphasized the importance of defending against Ye Luo, stressing that at least two players should mark him regardless of the situation. And what happened? Ye Luo scored right at the start of the game. And such a beautiful goal at that. You two, can't you even play? If you can't, get off me. How did he get that ball over there? Damn it. While Li Tai was cursing, the fans in the stadium were shocked. Both the Málaga fans and the Chinese Olympic team fans were stunned. Many of them hadn't yet fully immersed themselves in the relaxed atmosphere of the opening stages of the match. Many were still looking for their seats, and many were still chatting with their neighbors when the ball went in. However, in an inconspicuous corner of the stands, Malaga's head coach Pellegrini and his assistant Marlaska saw it clearly. Very good ball control, perfect first touch, and adventurous spirit. That Elastico's tail even reminded me of Ronaldinho. Marlaska exclaimed. Pellegrini nodded. It seems Bruno is right, he definitely deserves to play for the first team. Just a chance? With that one goal, maybe we can consider giving Mourinho a surprise in the next match, Marlaska said. Facing an opponent like Real Madrid, facing a wounded beast, frankly, Malaga has no chance without some changes. He's too young? Pellegrini frowned slightly. He didn't want Ye Luo to make his debut in an environment like the Bernabeu. Undoubtedly, in Pellegrini's mind, Ye Luo already had a place in his team based on that one goal. Ye Luo is a genius. Pellegrini was certain of that. But using talented young players requires considerable caution. If youth academies and youth team matches are streams, then the La Liga arena is a turbulent ocean. A fish that can swim freely in a stream is suddenly released into a turbulent ocean. One wrong move and it could be smashed to death on the shore by a giant wave. How many talented players from youth academies make their La Liga debuts each year, only to gradually disappear afterward? Youth academy is one thing, La Liga is another. It's hard to say whether a talent from a youth academy can adapt to the La Liga pitch. Just as Pellegrini was thinking this, on the field, Ye Luo, who had scored a goal, refused the cheers of his teammates who wanted to celebrate with him. He sprinted towards the coaching bench. What was he going to do? Almost everyone had this question in their minds. On the television screen, the camera focused on the goal scorer. Ye Luo sprinted towards the coaching bench after scoring. Was he going to thank the head coach? Liu Jianhong's expression changed as soon as he finished speaking. Because he realized that Ye Luo was running towards the national Olympic team's coaching bench. He had been expelled from the national Olympic team. Moreover, Liu Jianhong, as the national football team's official commentator for the national television station, knew a little about the inside story of Ye Luo's dismissal from the Olympic team. He also knew a bit about the unspoken rules of various levels of national teams. Therefore, he would never believe that Ye Luo went to thank Li Tai. So what was he going there for? The next moment, Liu Jianhong's eyes widened, his whole body trembled, and he leaned forward abruptly. His arm accidentally knocked all the documents on the table to the ground with a loud thud. Viewers watching the live broadcast could clearly hear the sound of the documents hitting the ground. Normally, this would be a live broadcast accident, resulting in a pay cut, but no one cared about that now, because compared to the live broadcast accident, what happened on the television screen was truly shocking. Under the camera's lens, Ye Luo ran up to Li Tai, the coach of the Olympic team, and stood in front of him. Then he lifted his jersey, revealing a white vest underneath. On the front of the vest was a line of words written in marker, Coach Li, success is based on ability, not bribes. Li Tai was trembling all over in front of the ramrod straight-legged young man. He was utterly shocked. He had never seen such audacious and reckless Chinese player. Did he even know what he was doing? This was live. Broadcast nationwide. Where would he put his face after the stunt? This kid was a damn troublemaker. Everyone could see Li Tai's slightly trembling hands, his evasive gaze, and his panicked expression on the television screen. Behind him were the coaching staff, too shocked to utter a word. They never imagined a Chinese player would dare do something like this. With this incident, all the domestic teams would know what kind of person he was. Someone who couldn't tolerate injustice and was this audacious. Which domestic team could use him? Which team dared to use him? Which domestic club didn't have some shady dealings? Who would dare use someone so incredibly bold? He wasn't just slapping Li Tai in the face. He was slapping the livelihoods of everyone in the domestic football circle. No one would use him anymore. This kid is completely finished. He'll never be able to return to the domestic football scene. On the bench, the national Olympic team players stared wide-eyed, their expressions a mixture of shock and admiration. At this moment, divided by the sideline between Ye Luo and Li Tai, the entire stadium, and all the fans watching this match, were utterly speechless with shock. Chapter 13, A Big Slap Across the Face. Chapter 12, Clap. 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 Holy crap. This. A red envelope? Is there some hidden story behind his dismissal? He had to give a red envelope to get on the field, right? It's an old tradition. Online, Chinese football fans were buzzing with discussion. The overwhelmingly negative public opinion towards Ye Luo had reversed because of this goal. It was simply too beautiful. A graceful first touch, a flick of the wrist past two players, then a quick cut inside and a powerful right-footed shot. A beautiful knuckleball. Such a solo performance would impress even the most demanding audience. Ye Luo stood before Li Tai. A cold smile played on his lips. He believed the scene had already spread throughout the country. You think I have to be subservient and coax you to get playing time? No way. I'm going to expose all your dirty tricks. Can't make it? I'll make something of myself. When I become the world's #1 football star, what can you monsters do to me? He stared at Li Tai, the boy's mockery stinging this legendary Chinese footballer. He looked away, but felt as if the entire world's eyes were on him. This made him somewhat flustered. What a joke. In front of a boy not even 18 years old, Li Tai, once full of passion, once having ventured to England, once a passionate young man, now dared not look him in the eye. This stung Li Tai. He grew increasingly angry, yet had nowhere to vent his anger. Fortunately, Ye Luo sneered and walked away, putting down his jersey before running towards the stands. In the press box, the reporters finally realized what was happening. This kid is really too audacious. What's he going to do now? Before anyone could process what had just happened, Ye Luo ran down to the stands, right in front of the Dragon Country Football Association group, sitting in the center of the low stands. Then he raised his hand. Slap. He made a slapping motion. Was he slapping the Football Association? Was he slapping the Football Association's general manager, Cheng Zuiyuan? In the press box, Cheng Zuiyuan's face turned ashen. He'd messed up. He'd completely messed up. It was unimaginable. Tomorrow, no. Right now, this scene would explode in the national media. Everyone online would spread this story widely. This news would become a national hot topic. And the Football Association, the Dragon Country Football Association, could only threaten some football media, such as those that mainly relied on interviewing and writing about the national team and the Chinese Super League, by threatening to revoke their match interview rights to make them obey. But that was all they could do. There were so many media outlets nationwide. Not to mention newspapers and television. Those were relatively easy to deal with. After all, although the Dragon Country Football Association is nominally a non-governmental organization, it's actually the same organization as the Football Management Center of the Sports Federation, operating under two names. Therefore, official matters can be somewhat covered up by the Football Association if they make a call. But what era are we living in? This is the internet age. Various online media outlets, large and small, exist. Can the Football Association control that? This. An official from the Football Association next to Cheng Zuiyuan pointed at the field, his fingers trembling, unable to say anything for a long time. This is outrageous, another official shouted angrily. It's a disgrace to the country. No organization, no discipline. Who promoted such a troublemaker? Investigate, definitely investigate. A group of bureaucrats were furious. But after all their threats, they didn't really know how to deal with the situation. If Ye Luo was determined not to stay in the country, they really had no way to handle it. At this moment, the internet in China was in an uproar. The attention on this youth team match skyrocketed. Major football forums, QQ groups, etc. The video of the goal, Ye Luo's slogan, and the slap in the face, all these shocked the fans, but also instantly gave them immense satisfaction. Ye Luo went from being public enemy number one to hero standing up for the fans. Why? Because the fans all knew that the culprits behind the decline of Chinese football to this point weren't just one or two players. Criticizing the players was merely a case of blaming the culprits. The real root cause was the Football Association, and those administrators in high positions. They were the ones responsible for the decline and continuous fall of Chinese football. Ye Luo's slap wasn't just a blow to the Football Association's face, it also struck a nerve with the fans. Well done. Brilliant. The Football Association is a bunch of idiots. The Football Association, you son of a bitch. In an instant, fans vented their frustrations online. At the stadium, even fans of the Chinese Olympic team applauded Ye Luo. Well done, Ye Luo. Play abroad. Don't come back. Go for it. Go for it. In the stands, the fans who came to cheer for the national Olympic team turned against Ye Luo. They cheered for him. Returning to the field, Ye Luo raised his hands and applauded, thanking the fans for their support. The few remaining spectators applauded the young man. What a lad with personality, Pellegrini observed. Although he didn't know what had happened, the conflict between Ye Luo and the coaching staff of the Chinese Olympic team was obvious to everyone. A star player, after all, can't be considered a star without some personality. But at least this proves our lad has good mental fortitude. He's very bold, Maraska laughed. I've seen the news from China. The person sitting in that stand is the general manager of the Chinese Football Association. Pellegrini glanced at the stand where the program's source was, then continued watching the field. He was becoming increasingly interested in Ye Luo. A cowboy dribble, an inside cut and shot. So, what other weapons do you have? Show them. It was like a progress bar in a game. This goal significantly increased the progress bar in Pellegrini's mind. However, getting Ye Luo promoted to the first team and starting is still a long way off. Ye Luo is well aware of this. This match was merely a convenient way to embarrass the Football Association. For him personally, he needed to demonstrate enough strength to impress Pellegrini. In his excitement, Ye Luo could clearly feel that his ability had indeed improved significantly compared to before. His control, passing, and shooting were all much better. Crucially, his shooting positioning was also very precise. He wasn't just active on the left flank, he frequently moved to the center and right flanks. His ball control made the national team's defenders want to be substituted immediately. He constantly received the ball, dribbled past opponents, passed, and looked for shooting opportunities. After the match resumed, all eyes were on Ye Luo. He was now the most dazzling player on the field. It was clear to everyone that his level was far superior to everyone else on the field. Chapter 14 The Pendulum. The Pendulum. Here we go again. Unfortunately for Ye Luo, he was matched up against Zhang Linpeng, a right-back who had previously been selected for the national team and broke the domestic player transfer record with a 6 million RMB transfer fee from Shanghai East Asia to Guangzhou Evergrande. In Chinese football, the 21-year-old Zhang Linpeng is considered a strong player. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been noticed by the wealthy Evergrande team. The Chinese Super League season has ended, and Zhang Linpeng won the championship with Guangzhou Evergrande. At 21, he won the CSL Best Newcomer Award and was selected for the CSL Best Zai. It can be said to be a very successful year for this young right-back. Although he is often criticized for his poor positioning and positional awareness, Zhang Linpeng, with his physical attributes comparable to foreign players, excellent tackling ability, and explosiveness, can often effectively neutralize many foreign players in the CSL. His performance has even attracted the attention of many foreign clubs. Unfortunately, the transfer fees for domestic Chinese players are currently inflated, making it impossible for foreign clubs to pay high transfer fees to acquire a Chinese player. Guangzhou Evergrande, of course, wouldn't be willing to suffer a loss by sending the player abroad. This talented player, in this match, faced Ye Luo, who was 3 years younger than him. Zhang Linpeng endured the biggest test of his career. His former Olympic teammate's strength left Zhang Linpeng breathless and nearing his physical limit after just 15 minutes. When Ye Luo received the ball again on the left flank, Zhang Linpeng had no choice but to face him head-on. He immediately called for his teammates to provide support. These teammates were all highly skilled: Zhang Zhen, the Shandong player playing right winger in this match, and Wu Jin, the future captain of the national team. Behind them stood the tall center-back Mei Feng. All were future pillars of the national team. At this moment, Zhang Linpeng and Zhang Zhen closed in from the front and back, Wu Jin provided support, and Mei Fang held the penalty area firmly. It seemed flawless. But the fans watching on TV were filled with anticipation, eager for Ye Luo's magician-like performance. Similar scenes had occurred multiple times in the first 15 minutes of the match. Here we go again. Ye Luo is surrounded by multiple defenders. What skills will he display this time? Liu Jianhong couldn't help but shout. Logically, as a commentator for China, he should naturally side with the Chinese Olympic team. But in this match, he cheered for Ye Luo without reservation. Firstly, because Ye Luo was a Chinese player. Secondly, because Ye Luo's performance truly deserved respect. Under everyone's expectant gaze, Ye Luo skillfully maneuvered the ball with his right foot. The ball danced beautifully under his feet, a sight to behold. This is the best ball control I've ever seen from a Chinese player, Liu Jianhong remarked. On camera, Ye Luo wasn't looking at the ball, his feet moved like a master calligrapher's brush, flowing smoothly and effortlessly, creating a breathtakingly beautiful piece of Han Dynasty calligraphy. Suddenly, he paused. Like a sudden change in rhythm in a symphony, a flick of the right foot, a quick twist, and then another flick of the left foot to the other side. These two consecutive flicks forced Zhang Linpeng and Zhang Zhen to scramble, their weight shifting to the left. Ye Luo, in turn, shifted his weight to the right, easily hooking the ball with his right foot and powerfully pushing off with his left. His body shot forward like an arrow, his incredible speed instantly leaving the two promising young talents in the Chinese Super League completely in his dust. In the process of adjusting their balance, the two slipped, fell backward, and completely lost their defensive positions. Wu Jin, who was covering from behind, had no choice but to rush forward and make a desperate sliding tackle. It was a one-shot deal. Either he could keep Ye Luo in the game, or he would be directly facing the defense. Wu Jin had no other option. He couldn't keep up with the speed or the rhythm, the only thing he could do was foul. Watch out! Amidst the exclamations of Liu Jianhong and the fans, Ye Luo seemed to have eyes in the back of his head. He suddenly stopped abruptly. Wu Jin could only watch helplessly as his body slid past Ye Luo, touching nothing, his body sliding out of bounds due to inertia. Looking back, Ye Luo had already dribbled into the penalty area. The 1.9-meter tall Mei Fang looked like a wooden stake in front of Ye Luo, easily shifting his weight with a feint. Fortunately, the national Olympic team starting goalkeeper, Wang Dalai, rushed out in time, quickly closing in on Ye Luo. Ye Luo. Wow! He's dribbled past 4 players, and now Wang Dalai is blocking his way. Liu Jianhong was conflicted. Ye Luo had dribbled past 4 defenders and was one-on-one with a goalkeeper. But if he scored, the national Olympic team would be 2 goals down and might become the backdrop for a spectacular goal. The conflict wasn't limited to Liu Jianhong, it also affected the Chinese fans watching the game. They were usually fierce critics, but after a loss, they swore they'd never watch the national team again. But when the match started, he secretly opened the elevator door and secretly turned on the TV. Seeing the national Olympic team about to concede another goal, I was already preparing to curse, but now the goal scorer was also a Chinese player, leaving me at a loss. But Wang Dalai wasn't thinking about that. His speed and coming out was his strength. He had once trained at Inter Milan, and there were even rumors that Inter Milan was willing to keep this Chinese player. Although Wang Dalai eventually returned to China, a Chinese player who could be linked with Inter Milan must have some ability. At least his positioning and one-on-one blocking posture were very standard. He blocked Ye Luo's possible routes to the maximum extent. He even deliberately exposed the top of his head, preparing to lure Ye Luo into a chip shot. This was Wang Dalai's signature move. His jumping ability was excellent, and his physical condition was great. He was confident that when Ye Luo chipped the ball, he could suddenly dive upwards and steal it. A one-on-one situation. It's a battle of wits between the goalkeeper and the striker. In a flash, Ye Luo had already dribbled the ball to Wang Dalai. Wang Dalai breathed a huge sigh of relief. The closer he was to his opponent, the smaller the angle of the shot, and the higher the chance of a successful save. Just then, Ye Luo suddenly felt a dip in his left shoulder. Wang Dalai immediately judged it as a feint. Ye Luo's dominant foot was his right, so he was more likely to break through to the right. Wang Dalai immediately prepared to move to the right. Just then, Ye Luo indeed leaned his body to the right. Success. Wang Dalai was overjoyed. However, the next second, his joy froze on his face. In his incredulous gaze, Ye Luo, who seemed to have completely shifted his weight to the right, suddenly shifted back to the left. With a light flick of his right foot, Ye Luo's body whizzed past Wang Dalai. It was impossible for Wang Dalai to adjust his weight. His upper body tried to lean to his right, Ye Luo lunged to the left, but his lower body, under the influence of gravity and inertia, went to the other side. The result was that his body seemed to freeze, completely motionless, and he could only watch helplessly as Ye Luo easily pushed the ball into the empty net with his left foot. Two words flashed through his mind: pendulum. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15, Doing Nothing is Just Shouting. Chapter 14, Doing Nothing but Roaring. Ye Luo. Ye Luo, Ye Luo. Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. My God. In the defense studio, Liu Jianhong held his head in his hands. His almost instinctive exclamation actually brought better commentary. In front of the TV, almost all the fans couldn't help but exclaim. What was that? A pendulum dribble. Perhaps it was the signature move of Ronaldo, the most talented striker in history. Now it was being replicated by a player from China. That's a pendulum dribble. Ye Luo's center of gravity shifted continuously in less than a second. His sense of balance is unbelievable. Wang Dalai couldn't stop Ye Luo's goal at all. To be honest, although the Olympic team is down 0-2, I'm not frustrated at all. I'm excited, I'm thrilled, because I've seen a genius player belonging to China. His strength is 10 times stronger than all the current national team players. He is the hope of Chinese football. Liu Jianhong was so excited that he almost spoke without thinking. Outside the studio, the director frantically gestured. What a joke. Ye Luo had just been publicly criticized and expelled from the National Olympic team by the Football Association a few days ago. And now, the commentator on the national television sports channel dared to praise Ye Luo like this. Wasn't this deliberately going against the grain and disrupting unity? Liu Jianhong, seeing this, knew he had been too excited. But he didn't regret it, because he saw the rise of a genius. This was absolutely the hope of Chinese football. Provided he could reconcile with the Chinese Football Association. Did you see that clearly? Pellegrini, sitting in his seat, suddenly stood up, his voice trembling as he looked at his assistant, Marlaska. 3 consecutive shifts in weight in less than a second. Incredible. That's Ronaldinho. Marlaska exclaimed. Perhaps he can become our secret weapon. Pellegrini said excitedly. Are you going to field him at the Bernabeu? Isn't that a bit too early? Marlaska frowned. No, how could it be early? He's an absolute genius. Pellegrini exclaimed, pointing at Ye Luo. His positioning and shooting on the wing, his speed, his ball control, all are top-notch for his age group. And he has so many strengths. Pellegrini exclaimed in amazement. Indeed. This player possesses 33% of peak Ronaldo's dribbling and breakthrough ability, 33% of peak Ronaldinho's ball control, and 33% of peak Cristiano Ronaldo's scoring ability. While none of these are top tier, they are all near first class. These 3 abilities combined give Ye Luo more ways to torment the opponent's defense. This is what Pellegrini values. He needs a true explosive player. Only then can he have the chance to escape unscathed at the Bernabeu. His team also needs some changes. Perhaps Ye Luo's addition will be the catalyst for change in his team. Perhaps this is the beginning of Malaga's victory. Faced with repeated defeats, any coach's first choice will be to seek personnel changes. This is the most direct way to reverse a team's decline. Such a genius doesn't need any adjustment period. He's a shark himself, why would he fear the vast ocean? Pellegrini sat down and laughed. La Liga is too much pressure. Aren't you afraid it will crush him? Marlaska asked. Pellegrini was silent for a moment, then said, this is a huge gamble, not only for us, but also for him. If he can withstand this pressure, he has the potential to become a top-tier star. What if he can't? Pellegrini shrugged. Then with his talent, he can still play in La Liga, better than most professional players. In this world, the football industry is the largest sports industry chain. The football industry supports the most professional players in the world. However, the vast majority are at the bottom of the football professional league pyramid, forming the foundation that supports the top-level professional football competitions such as the top 5 European leagues and the UEFA Champions League. Being able to play in La Liga, one of the top 5 leagues, is indeed considered to be at the top of the football industry chain, earning more money than most professional players. Maraska turned to look at the boy sprinting towards the stands, his expression slightly changing. What was this kid up to now? Holy crap. Awesome. Genius. Absolutely a genius. So awesome. Has China ever had such an explosively talented player in its history? In the media section, reporters were still stunned by Ye Luo's goal. Then they saw Ye Luo run to the sidelines, raise his hand, and point at the Football Association's general manager in the stands. Slap. Everyone's expression changed. Some turned to look back. They saw the Football Association's general manager's face was as black as soot. Turning back to the stands, they saw the arrogant boy proudly holding his head high. Even facing the Football Association's general manager, a figure so unapproachable to a 17-year-old Chinese footballer, he remained fearless. He glared at him coldly. How can one bow and scrape before the powerful? A reporter murmured. They've finally learned what youthful spirit, the style of Li Bai, and unwavering integrity truly mean. Too much rigidity leads to breakage, another reporter suddenly remarked. The two exchanged a glance. Bend my foot. I refuse to believe that Chang Soyun can do anything besides preventing him from playing football in the country. Does he think he's some kind of emperor? A chubby reporter spat. In the press box, some expressed regret, some disdain, some seemed thoughtful, and some remained indifferent. It was a world of its own, a vibrant mix of black and white. Chang Soyun is gone, someone whispered. The reporters all turned to look. They only saw the back of the Dragon Kingdom Football Association's general manager, who had utterly disgraced himself. Ye Luo was also disappointed. He'd only scored 2 goals and then run away, surrendered. It was truly disheartening. Since Chang Soyun had run away, Ye Luo's gaze turned to Li Tai. Li Tai shuddered. He was truly terrified of Ye Luo now. Why did he have to provoke this hothead? Li Tai sat on the coach's bench, as if trying to hide himself completely in his seat. But Ye Luo still walked past the sidelines, right there, his eyes fixed on Li Tai. He said nothing. He did nothing. His gaze was like a torch, illuminating all the demons and monsters, leaving them nowhere to hide. Li Tai was restless, only wanting the game to end as soon as possible. But he knew that the end of this game was just the beginning of another earthquake. Chapter 16, Fighting the Fight is endlessly enjoyable. Chapter 15, Fighting the Fight is endless fun. With Ye Luo scoring his second goal, the fighting spirit of the Dragon Kingdom's Olympic team was almost crushed. In the 34th minute, Ye Luo completed a powerful 1-2 pass with his teammate in the middle before unleashing a powerful shot. The ball was parried by Wang Dali, hit the post, bounced back into the penalty area, and was tapped in by his own striker. 3-0. Although Ye Luo didn't score this goal, he deserved 70–80% of the credit. During halftime, Bruno praised the team's performance in the locker room. On the other side, Li Tai was furious, filled with unprecedented anger and frustration. A renowned figure in Dragon Kingdom football, the head coach of the Dragon Kingdom's Olympic team, had been humiliated in front of everyone. How could he bear it? How could he bear it? The only possibility of salvaging some face now was for the Olympic team to perform well in this match. For example, equalize or even reverse the score. Encouraged by Li Tai, the Chinese Olympic team players certainly showed their anger on the field. Less than 10 minutes into the second half, they had already earned 3 yellow cards. And even with their efforts, they couldn't stop Ye Luo's scoring spree. In the 53rd minute, Malaga's U18 youth team delivered a cross from the right flank. Ye Luo surged into the penalty area from outside, leaping high and heading the ball towards the goal over the 190 centimeters tall Mei Fang. Such a close-range header left Wang Dali with no time to react. Mei Fang was still judging the ball's trajectory when he finally saw Ye Luo practically fly through the air, smashing the ball into the goal. 4-0. Ye Luo completed his hat trick. Heading. Wow. So beautiful. Ye Luo surged forward from outside the penalty area, then leaped high to head the ball. This goal is reminiscent of Cristiano Ronaldo's goal for Manchester United in a Champions League match, Liu Jianhong exclaimed. Dribbling past opponents, cutting inside to shoot, handling one-on-one situations, his teamwork with teammates, even his headers. Ye Luo was showcasing his attacking weapons to the fullest. He knew that Pellegrini was watching from somewhere right now. He had to make it clear to the Málaga coach that he had enough ability to play for Malaga's first team. He had enough weapons to display on the field. He could be a powerful piece in Malaga's attacking tactics. This match for Ye Luo was like a trial, or rather, an interview for a spot in La Liga. After scoring that goal, Ye Luo stopped provoking Litai. Compared to the ticket to La Liga, these people were insignificant. He opened his arms and embraced his teammates in the corner flag area. Among those in the stands were fans from China. Some were students studying in Spain, some were tourists visiting Spain, and some were overseas Chinese doing business or working there. Their faces were painted with the national flag. They were originally fans cheering for the national Olympic team. But at this moment, they were all cheering for Ye Luo. Beautiful goal. Go Ye Luo. Ye Luo. Give me an autograph. I'll go to Malaga to watch your game. The fans chanted from the stands. Disobeying the head coach? Lack of organization and discipline? A player expelled from the national Olympic team. These labels were completely forgotten. Competitive sports. The winner takes all. Strength speaks for itself. Ye Luo's performance proved he had the ability to make the national Olympic team, no, the national team, play around him. In this situation, if the head coach didn't do so, it would be considered incompetence, dereliction of duty, and stubbornness. After celebrating the goal with his teammates, Ye Luo also raised his arm and applauded from the stands, thanking the Chinese fans for their support. He pursed his lips. He had once dreamed of wearing the national team jersey, representing his country on the World Cup stage, just like now, celebrating goals and victories with his fans. But now, all of that was just a dream. He had really offended the Football Association. Moreover, given his actions today, even if Chang Soo-yuan steps down, the new FA general manager probably won't call him up to the national team again. Because he didn't just slap Chang Soo-yuan in the face, but the FA, and the face of the vested interests within Chinese football. He had completely offended this group of profiteers within Chinese football. And they practically occupy every niche in the ecosystem of Chinese football. From the FA, to coaches, to players, to certain well-known journalists, and so on. One can imagine that his future awaits him with constant articles from well-known journalists smearing him, and a constant barrage of attacks from online trolls and haters in the media. Thinking of this, Ye Luo's lips curled into a slight smile. This is interesting. Fighting against fate is endlessly enjoyable. Fighting against people is endlessly enjoyable. Fighting against the FA is endlessly enjoyable. After scoring the goal, Ye Luo was substituted shortly afterward. The Chinese Olympic team players were becoming increasingly aggressive, and the coach was worried about Ye Luo getting injured. He knew that there had been many serious fouls in Chinese football in the past. If Ye Luo were injured by these reckless, even deliberately malicious, fouls, it would be a huge loss. The game became somewhat dull after he was substituted. For the Chinese Olympic team players, the person who had brought them shame had been taken off the field, and they were now 4 goals down. Even if they wanted to catch up, they were powerless. Furthermore, the Málaga U18 players had all grown up in the Spanish youth football system. How to control the game, how to master passing, it was practically ingrained in the Spanish blood. The remaining time was mostly consumed by the Málaga U18 players' passing game. By the 90th minute, the cameras had stopped focusing on the game altogether. Ye Luo, sitting on the bench, became the center of attention. In the press box, reporters had already turned on their phones or camcorders. They knew the post-match interviews wouldn't be broadcast. If they were broadcast in China, it would likely be a broadcasting disaster, given Ye Luo's personality. Who knew what he would say? Therefore, the best way to capitalize on the post-match interview with Ye Luo and generate buzz is to record it yourself and broadcast it online. Compared to major television stations, the internet has far fewer restrictions. Without a doubt, the best player of this match, who scored a hat trick, is Ye Luo. Liu Jianhong said. He then launched into a long-winded rant, from the decline of Chinese football to its current state, sounding worried and drowsy. Just as the audience was about to lose their patience, the referee blew his whistle 3 times. The match is over. Accompanied by Liu Jianhong's voice, snap. Quickly, the national television sports channel hastily shut down the live broadcast. Chapter 17: The Raging Storm of Public Opinion. Chapter 16: The Surging Storm of Public Opinion. In fact, The stadium cameras locked onto Ye Luo immediately. At the same time, the referee smiled and handed him a match ball, a privilege reserved for players who scored a hat-trick in that match. Meanwhile, as Ye Luo turned around with the ball, the reporters from China swarmed him like sharks smelling blood, surrounding him completely. They bombarded him with their microphones, practically shoving their recording devices into his mouth. Ye Luo, of course, didn't shy away from the reporters. The side quest of slapping the fa in the face hadn't even ended yet. This meant the post-match interview could also be part of the slap. It's simple, Ye Luo said. Li Tai wanted me to play second fiddle to the team's tall striker, and I refused. The reporters quieted down, anticipating even more explosive news from Ye Luo. You've all seen that center forwards level. Don't compare him to me, he's way behind everyone else on the team, but he's a starter, he holds a starting position. Why? What the hell could it be? Because he gave Coach Li Tai a bribe. Ye Luo grew increasingly angry. The reporters were dumbfounded. They knew about the bribery, but they'd never heard Ye Luo say it so openly. This young man was incredibly bold. The reporters exchanged bewildered glances. They were surprised and shocked. Of course, they weren't shocked by the bribery itself. They all knew about that. What surprised them was that a player, a boy under 18, had spoken about it so calmly. He hadn't considered the consequences. Ye Luo had recounted his experience in the national youth team without hesitation. This was a situation many young players might face. But before him, no one had been as outspoken as Ye Luo. Or rather, no one had a voice like Ye Luo. Ye Luo's voice grew louder and louder. The words were truly a wake-up call for the reporters. But could these words be broadcast in mainstream media? No. Because no media dared to report them. Ye Luo looked at one of the younger reporters. Ye Luo had sharp eyes, he had just seen this reporter echoing his words. Hello, I saw you recording, right? Zhang Deong, an intern reporter for the Southern Sports Daily, was taken aback. As an intern, he had no connections in the group, nor could he get inside information from acquaintances like veteran national team players or team leaders like the older reporters. So he was almost considering leaving the company. Yes. Great, can you give me a copy of what you just recorded? Ye Luo smiled. Sure. Zhang Deong had filmed it with his phone. The Southern Sports Daily was a print media outlet, without a television channel, so the video he filmed was only for reviewing while writing articles. It wasn't of much use. Add me on WeChat, remember to send it to me later. Ye Luo reached out and added Zhang Deong as a WeChat friend on his phone. His phone was in the locker room. The surrounding reporters were green with envy. This was the personal WeChat of the future #1 football player in China. Being able to add him on WeChat was enough to get a job at any sports media outlet in China, and they would have to treat him with utmost respect. This was what connections were all about. Zhang Deong looked honest, but he wasn't stupid. Adding Ye Luo on WeChat was the luckiest thing that would happen to him in his future career. It could profoundly change his career as a reporter. Under the complex gazes of the reporters, Ye Luo, after giving the interview, returned to the players' tunnel. Meanwhile, some reporters had already used alternate accounts to upload Ye Luo's post-match interview to Weibo, Douyin, Tuba, and various online communities. The speed of online dissemination was unimaginable. Soon, a media storm targeting the Football Association was brewing online. Ye Luo's performance in this match was enough to prove that his level was far superior to these Olympic team players. But why was he dismissed? Disobeying the coach's tactical arrangements? A player like that should be the absolute core. If the coach's arrangements are unreasonable, shouldn't the player be angry? Fans are always exceptionally tolerant of geniuses. Suddenly, public opinion surged. The storm of public opinion that was originally directed at Ye Luo instantly surged tenfold, 100-fold, towards the Football Association. It surged towards Li Tai. The raging storm swept across the internet. Online, fans were furious, using their keyboards as weapons to vent their anger. After returning to the locker room, Ye Luo immediately opened the system. Ling. Side quest, slap the Dragon Kingdom Football Association in the face, quest completion rating A, quest reward, A level physique medal 1, fusion points. 6 points. Ling. Your main quest, score your first official match goal, has been completed, quest reward, fusion points 2, C level random gift box 2. Ye Luo first saw the A level physique medal, grade of physique medal, physique +5, reduces the likelihood of injury. Good stuff. Ye Luo knew, of course, that his playing style was very annoying. So making his physique more durable was the best thing to do. He immediately equipped it. He also opened 2 Grade C random gift boxes, obtaining 2 Grade C items each. Machine guards, Grade C item, grants immunity to 1 instance of damage from an opponent's defensive action that caused injury. After the effect takes effect, the machine guards can only be used as regular machine guards. Essentially a one-time use item. That's not bad. Stamina recovery potion, restores a certain amount of stamina after use. Potion? It's not some kind of performance-enhancing drug, is it? Ye Luo was stunned. Don't worry, host, all the potions rewarded by the system will not contain any performance-enhancing drugs. I don't believe you. At most, current technology might not be able to detect it. Do you think I don't know? Sprinting and swimming are high-tech competitions now, Ye Luo thought to himself. Just then, the system's main quest refreshed. You have received the main quest. Enter the first team starting lineup. System rewards, Fusion Points 3, B-grade random treasure chest 1. The starting lineup. Ye Luo couldn't help but click his tongue. Convincing Pellegrini to get into the starting lineup wasn't difficult. The difficulty lay in getting into the starting lineup for the next match, because the first team's next opponent was Real Madrid. Facing such an opponent, putting a player promoted from the youth team into the starting lineup required considerable courage. However, these were things the coach needed to consider. What Ye Luo needed to do was continue to improve his strength. Remaining fusion points. 9. Each template can take one more small step forward. Fusion. On the data panel. Fusion progress of the 3 SS grade templates. 36%. Reposted. The previous chapter was taken down for reasons you understand. Chapter 18. A sufficiently weighted professional contract. Chapter 17. A sufficiently significant professional contract. On the other side, Li Tai was thoroughly criticized by Cheng Zuiyuan, but Li Tai was ultimately one of their own. Therefore, he wasn't dismissed from his position as head coach of the national Olympic team. Moreover, because the Ye Luo incident had such a significant impact, the fact that the national Olympic team was thrashed 4-0 by a smaller opponent seemed to attract less attention. Faced with public criticism, the Football Association resorted to its traditional tactic, playing the turtle. That is, no matter what, it wouldn't respond. Public opinion was fleeting, and the Football Association was very experienced in this. Every time the national team lost, wasn't it the same? Time would heal all wounds. Cheng Zuiyuan was confident of this. But would he be content with this? Of course not. As the matter gradually subsided in the public sphere, many articles appeared in the media that were ostensibly supportive but actually critical. People like Mardexon from the Football News were the Football Association's go-to writers. As long as there were no national team matches, the Football Association's counterattack, though late, would arrive. Málaga first team. 3 days later, Ye Luo stood at the entrance of the first team's training ground. He knew that his arrival with the first team meant he was very likely to get a chance to play. He had a very high probability of playing in the next match against Real Madrid. And for Ye Luo, his goal was to secure a starting position. Currently, the team's 2 main strikers were injured. Uruguayan striker Sebastián Fernández and local winger Luke were both likely to miss the game. The only available strikers for this match were Moroccan veteran Baha and Portuguese player Dinho, who was over 30. In other words, Ye Luo's competitors were 2 veterans over 30. In fact, as long as his performance didn't falter, getting a playing time was inevitable, because Moroccan veteran Baha simply couldn't sustain a 90-minute high-intensity match. It was too much to ask of him. Therefore, even if Ye Luo didn't start, his chances of coming on as a substitute were still very high. However, Ye Luo wasn't there to be a substitute. He was there to fight for a starting position. With this belief, he walked into the training ground. Greeting him in the locker room was the team's #1 goalkeeper and captain, Francisco Arnaud. This local player had been with the team for 10 years since joining from Barcelona in 2000, a true legend and the current leader of the Málaga locker room. Yellow, right? The head coach already told me. Come with me. Arnaud led Yellow into the locker room, introducing him to the first team players. It was the FIFA international break. However, Málaga wasn't a powerhouse, and their squad lacked international players. Aside from Danish international Chris and Ghanaian international Obi, the team was primarily composed of Spanish and Portuguese players, a team with few star players. However, Spanish media generally predicted a major change in the team during the winter transfer window. Abdullah Al-Thani, the Qatar prince, a figure often associated with the club, had already acquired the team last month. Unfortunately for the Málaga media, the summer transfer window had already closed by then. So this prince of the Qatar, wielding petrodollars, didn't have the chance to showcase his skills, only bringing in a renowned coach. Last season's Real Madrid manager, Pellegrini. It's foreseeable that Málaga will have the opportunity to make some moves in the transfer market this winter transfer window, bringing in some solid players. However, Pellegrini will now have to use this mediocre squad to compete in La Liga. Málaga fans will need to be patient. Even the Málaga first-team players, who seem quite ordinary to the media and fans, are very aloof when facing yellow. The best they greet is with a slight smile, most just nod, that's considered friendly. Some simply ignore them. This is normal. They've seen many players from the youth team promoted to the first team, but most of them can't establish themselves there. At most, they're just there to gain experience. Moreover, the team is in poor form, winless in several rounds, and deep in the relegation zone. All of this made the atmosphere in Malaga's locker room very oppressive. Add to that the fact that almost everyone was certain they would be slaughtered in the next match, and it would be a huge disregard for the team's performance if the players could still joke around carefree. Regardless of their true feelings, the atmosphere in Malaga's locker room was anything but lively. Everyone looked serious, seemingly quite worried about the team's fate, and perhaps even their own futures. The team had been acquired by the oil prince. Most of them would likely be sold off. There might be quite a few players unemployed in the winter transfer window. Team captain Francisco Arnal didn't need to worry about being sold, partly because he had decided to retire at the end of the season, and partly because no team would be interested in a 35-year-old goalkeeper. Not everyone is like Van der Sar, who could transfer to Manchester United in his 30s and have a second spring in his career. "This is your locker," Arnault said, leading Yellow to corner of the locker room and pointing to the locker. The jersey number was large. 41. It was clearly a youth team player's number, because La Liga first team registration numbers are limited to 1 to 25, with numbers above 25 belonging to youth academy players. As a youth team player, he obviously had no right to choose his jersey number. Ye Luo didn't care. Numbers weren't his concern for the time being. He needed to impress the head coach through training and earn a starting opportunity first. Ye Luo went to his spot to change into his training shoes and jersey. Then, led by Captain Arnaud, he headed to the training field. The team's assistant coach, Marasca, was leading the training. Ye Luo looked around but didn't see head coach Pellegrini. However, what he didn't expect was that the head coach was standing by the window of an office facing the stadium in the team's administrative building, next to the team owner, Abdullah Al-Thani, who practically screamed "rich man," and the team's general manager, Fernando Sanz. The power of a La Liga team's head coach is generally limited to the first team. The club's management is usually handled by the general manager, or even the chairman himself. "Is that the Ye Luo you were talking about?" The team owner craned his neck curiously, immediately spotting the young Chinese man, Ye Luo, on the field in the distance. The biggest gem of the youth academy, a talent comparable to Messi at the same age? Team general manager Fernando Sanz asked with a hint of doubt, suspecting that head coach Pellegrini was joking. But judging from his tone and expression, it didn't seem like a joke at all. "Of course I'm not joking, gentlemen. I think Málaga should do everything they can to keep him, give him a sufficiently lucrative professional contract, otherwise, I can't guarantee Málaga can keep him this season." Chapter 19, First Team, Core Treatment. Chapter 18. First Team, Core Treatment. Team owner Abdullah Al-Thani and general manager Fernando Sanz exchanged bewildered glances. Was it really that exaggerated? Comparable to Messi at the same age? Would that mean the team had a Ballon d'Or potential genius? What a joke. However, neither of them was surprised. Because Messi was incredibly popular right now. Basically, any slightly talented player would be given the title XX Messi. For example, the Austrian Messi, the Korean Messi, the Egyptian Messi, and so on. But just because your name is XX Messi doesn't mean you are Messi. Who is Messi? He was handpicked by Argentine football legend Maradona as the successor to the king of football. This is a genius that only appears once or twice in half a century. How could it appear so easily? Therefore, both of them thought Pellegrini was exaggerating. General manager Fernando Sanz cleared his throat and said, "Luis, I think we should at least wait until he plays one professional league match before making any statements. Many geniuses who excel in youth academies fail to shine in the first team. So it's understandable that Fernando Sanz said that. Pellegrini shrugged. He had already fulfilled his responsibilities as head coach. Since the team's management thought they needed to be cautious, Pellegrini couldn't interfere. Besides, the next match was against Real Madrid. If Ye Luo could perform well in this match, it would be a breakthrough. At that point, it wouldn't be as simple as a professional contract for Málaga to keep Ye Luo. On the training field, Ye Luo played with ease. As the template was integrated, Ye Luo's control of the ball also began to develop. His passing, dribbling, and shooting skills were all quite solid. In terms of physical condition, his speed and explosiveness caught the attention of the first-team players. As training progressed, the first-team players began to pay more attention to Ye Luo. On the football field, only strength earns respect. And during the afternoon scrimmage, Ye Luo's performance simply stunned the first-team players. They had never seen a player just promoted from the youth academy perform like this. His talent was completely undeniable, overflowing. Meanwhile, the team's two starting center-backs, the two local players Manu Torres and Ivan Gonzalez, had completely lost their previous focus. After Manu Torres once again forcefully tackled Ye Luo out of bounds, he became impatient and yelled at his partner, "Mark him closely. Don't let him get past so easily." Ivan Gonzalez, also getting impatient and frustrated, retorted, "You try it. Do you think this kid is so easy to mark?" The two starting center-backs almost got into a fight on the field. It has to be said that Ye Luo's playing style was indeed attracting aggression. In fact, the performance was quite good, at least surprising Ye Luo himself. If this were in the youth team, Ye Luo would already be scoring at will, having scored more than one goal. The intensity and ability of the first team in La Liga are indeed incomparable to the youth team. Ye Luo was excited. The duel with the team's two main center-backs made him feel that he could unleash his potential more quickly, that is, adapt to, utilize, and master the potential he now possesses. La Liga-level center-backs are much stronger than those in the youth league. Scoring against a La Liga center-back is not as easy as against a youth team. But that's what makes it interesting. Ye Luo stood in the penalty area, completely focused, concentrating all his attention on the game. This was his strength. He had excellent concentration and a very strong desire to attack the goal. The 3SS-level templates improved his technique. However, on a mental level, these templates were not very helpful. In fact, many players possess technical talent. But ultimately, to fully unleash their potential, one must have a strong mental belief. In this respect, Ye Luo possessed that strong competitive spirit and desire to score. He was surrounded by defenders, seemingly without any chance. However, the moment the corner kick was taken, Ye Luo suddenly retreated from the small penalty area to the edge of the penalty area. This time, the corner kick's trajectory was precisely in that direction. Facing the incoming ball, Ye Luo directly raised his foot. A volley, a powerful shot. The football suddenly changed direction, struck the underside of the crossbar, and bounced into the goal. Wow, beautiful. Many players cheered. It was indeed a beautiful goal. This kid is absolutely amazing. Incredible. He'll be a superstar sooner or later. In an instant, everyone rushed over, patting Ye Luo on the shoulder and in his hair to celebrate the goal. After the first day of training, Ye Luo put on the red vest symbolizing the starting lineup. There were still 2 weeks before heading to the Bernabeu. Therefore, Pellegrini had time to let Ye Luo integrate into the team as soon as possible. With observation of Ye Luo and the first-team players' recognition of his abilities, Pellegrini began to practice counter-attacking tactics centered around Ye Luo. Of course, Pellegrini wouldn't fantasize about playing an attacking game against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu or delude himself into thinking that Malaga's strength could overwhelm Real Madrid. Although Real Madrid lost 1-5 in the last round, their opponent was Barcelona, now known as the Dream Team. For a small team like Málaga, facing football giants like Real Madrid at home, a solid defensive counter-attacking strategy is more economical and effective. Therefore, Pellegrini is pinning Malaga's hopes for goals on Ye Luo. He designed a 4-4-2 formation for this match. Ye Luo's strike partner is Portuguese centre-forward Adinho. The 188 cm tall Adinho is physically strong and can act as a focal point in attack, providing support for Ye Luo. At the same time, Adinho will also participate in defense, serving as the team's first line of defense. As for Ye Luo, his task is to wait for counter-attacking opportunities. Once possession is secured in the backfield, whoever has the ball must immediately look for Ye Luo. If Ye Luo has a chance to counter-attack, given his individual abilities shown in the past 2 days, he will definitely have a speed advantage against Real Madrid's defenders one-on-one. Moreover, he is very stable with the ball, technically skilled, and, importantly, has a strong ability to seize opportunities. This will ensure Malaga's counter-attacking efficiency. If they can complete 1 or 2 effective counter-attacks, then it wouldn't be a pipe dream to escape the Bernabeu unscathed. Chapter 20, Ye Xianke's training is the core. Reporter Ma offers a plan to appease the Football Association. Chapter 19. Ye Luo trains to become the core player. Reporter Ma offers advice to appease the Football Association. While Ye Luo was oblivious to the outside world, focusing solely on training to become the core player, the controversy surrounding a slap in the face to the Football Association gradually subsided domestically. Online, however, rumors, both true and false, began to circulate. Some of the more damaging were compilations of Ye Luo's past mistakes, along with numerous subjective articles. One particularly influential article was written by an account with the ID Mogwanzu10. The author first analyzed Ye Luo's performance in the Malaga youth team's match against the national Olympic team, using GIFs to praise his excellent form. Then, the author abruptly shifted focus, stating, "This is undoubtedly a masterpiece of Ye Luo's football career." Perhaps fueled by his anger, he delivered a new career high. The article then steered the discussion towards Ye Luo's previous performances. Frankly, while Ye Luo's previous performances weren't bad, and could even be considered excellent. However, compared to his explosive performance in this match, it did seem mediocre, and anyone could easily compile a highlight reel of his mistakes. Thus, under the influence of the influential online football media outlet Mogwanzu10, numerous comments emerged. Actually, a good performance in one match isn't a big deal, especially under these circumstances. It's probably just a burst of energy fueled by anger. But is what Ye Luo said really true? Li Tai hasn't been dismissed. They say they're going to hold him accountable for spreading rumors. Damn, who knows what's true and what's false? I don't think Ye Luo's performance was just a one-off burst. Look at the way he scored, his ball control and dribbling. Hell, football novices love watching these kinds of things. Exactly, who dribbles anymore? It's all passing. Anyone who understands football knows that constantly talking about dribbling shows a lack of understanding. Suddenly, the domestic football scene became much more murky. At the headquarters of Football News, Editor-in-Chief Ma Dixon smiled smugly at the online comments. "Mr. Ma, that kid does have some talent. Aren't we just asking for trouble by doing this?" A thin, bespectacled young man with greasy hair, his eyes bloodshot, looked up and said. It was unclear how many hours he'd spent working overtime at his computer or how many online arguments he'd had. "Shut up like a dog. Are you trying to get into graduate school?" Ma Dixon, balding, glanced at his assistant and sneered. "It's orders from above to take him down. This kid offended some big shots. We can't let him off so easily. Just watch, this is only the beginning. This kid is still a youth team player. He'll barely get any exposure. Once he makes it to the first team and gains some fame, hell, if he doesn't become a traitor and a major collaborator in China, I'm not a Ma." Ma Dixon scoffed. "With that persona, what good is playing well? He's offended people. Forget about making money in China. Too much rigidity leads to breakage. Too much rigidity leads to breakage." Ma Dixon made the sign of the cross. "Amitabha, may God protect you, kid. It's not that I want to mess with you, it's that the higher-ups want to get you. Don't blame me later." "Mr. Ma, speaking of which, Malaga's next match is against Real Madrid, but that kid is U18. "Mr. Ma. Look. Look." The greasy-haired young man pointed at the computer screen, his fingers trembling. "What's going on?" Ma Dixon leaned closer. "Isn't this the match roster for this game?" Ma Dixon almost fainted. He had already planned a 3-step plan to completely ruin Ye Luo. But the plan only went halfway through. It seemed to have failed. Because Ye Luo actually appeared on Malaga's away match roster against Real Madrid, 41 Ye Luo, this name was too distinctive among the many Latin-style player names. And this large number clearly indicated Ye Luo's identity. He was a player promoted from Malaga's youth team to the first team. How is this possible? Ma Dixon was stunned. "Mr. Ma, what should we do?" Are we going to fail before we even get started? Calm down, calm down. Sweat began to bead on Madexin's bald spot, probably from his brain working so hard that it needed to cool down. Just then, Madexin's phone rang. Mr. Chang, hey, I saw it. He's just on the roster, don't worry. Madexin picked up the phone, grinning and bending over. Yes, he's just on the roster, he definitely won't get to play. Think about it, who's the opponent? Real Madrid. A team you've heard of. Do you think that kid will have a chance to play against such a big team? He's just an U18 player. On the other end of the line, Cheng Yuan frowned. Standing next to him was Li Tai, the head coach of the national Olympic team. He looked at Li Tai, his eyes questioning. Li Tai nodded quickly, indicating that Madexin was right. A young player from the youth training camp. There was no need to worry about him playing. But just the fact that he's on the roster is enough to cause a stir among fans. The public outcry that was finally contained will erupt again. Even if he doesn't play, the impact will be enormous. We have to find a way to suppress this, Cheng Yuan said, frowning. On the other end of the phone, Madexin's brows furrowed. Suppress it? Is it that easy? Do you know how many fans Real Madrid has in China? If we're just talking about the number of fans in China, Real Madrid is definitely in the top 3, and might even be number 1. The only clubs that can compete with them are Barcelona and Manchester United. Those tens of thousands of Real Madrid fans will definitely watch the games, and they'll definitely see his name on the roster. And you can't suppress the media from reporting on this. Mr. Chang, this can't be suppressed, but we can shift the blame. Madexin grinned slyly. Shift the blame? How? Cheng Yuan asked on the other end of the phone. This kid's first time on the roster, and against a team like Real Madrid, so his chances of playing are practically zero. Therefore, we can have people say he bought his spot on the roster. Buy? Can that be sold? Yes, of course. Madexin said. Have you heard that some agents in China specialize in this business? They arrange for young players to go abroad, buy a spot on a European team's match roster, even a chance to play, and then hype it up in China, inflating the player's value, before selling them back to domestic teams at a high price. Was this kid's roster bought? Whether it is or not is unimportant. Cheng Yuan nodded in satisfaction. Very good. The influence of public opinion cannot be ignored. You work in the media, you need to find ways to guide it. Alright, just you wait and see, Madexin said, bowing and scraping. Chapter 21, Madexin's attempts to stir up public opinion are outrageous. Coach Mu is especially careful when looking at the list. Chapter 20, Madexin's outrageous public opinion stirs up trouble. Mourinho is especially careful looking at the list. Soon, numerous news reports about domestic players being exported and then re-imported appeared online. On the forum account Wagwan Football, an article titled Genius? Profit? Beware of the inside story of exporting and re-importing, quickly became a trending topic on Weibo, fueled by some. The content actually had little to do with Ye Luo. The preceding content was very normal, simply describing several cases of young domestic players being signed by domestic teams for exorbitant fees after being manipulated by agents. Through a certain degree of cooperation with European teams, these young Chinese players were packaged, their market value inflated, and even their stats artificially inflated through tactical resource allocation in certain competitions. In this way, previously worthless young Chinese players could be elevated to geniuses, allowing domestic teams to buy them back at huge transfer fees. Similar cases were commonplace, and all were factual. And at the end of the article mentions the dramatic reversal in public opinion surrounding Ye Luo and his abnormal inclusion in the squad for the match against Real Madrid. As everyone knows, Ye Luo is called the Chinese Beckham by Chinese fans not because of his football skills, but because of his appearance. Admittedly, in China, Ye Luo is considered a young and talented player, but his talent is insufficient in European football. Yet, under these circumstances, he scored a hat-trick against the national Olympic team and was included in the squad for Real Madrid's highly anticipated home game against Málaga. Why the national Olympic team? Why Real Madrid? How many times has Chinese football suffered this kind of setback? Perhaps we should all be wary. The article doesn't directly accuse Ye Luo of a conspiracy involving exporting and then re-importing players, it only points out the irrationality, leaving ample room for the reader's imagination. However, The previous cases were enough for readers to conjure up their own conspiracy theories. The hat trick against the national Olympic team was a conspiracy, and so was getting into the Real Madrid squad, all to fleece Chinese football. It's truly despicable. Fueled by those with ulterior motives, the public opinion storm began to swirl. Voices criticizing Ye Luo appeared online. After all, there are all sorts of birds in a big forest. Moreover, most people in this world are simply following the crowd and lack critical thinking. How, a 17-year-old Chinese player in the La Liga squad? And against Real Madrid? Do you believe it? What's Ye Luo's family background? I heard they ran business, quite wealthy. How, can you learn football without money? Suddenly, all sorts of opinions flooded in. Truth and justice were thus obscured and buried. It must be said, the Chinese Football Association isn't good at managing football, but they're very good at manipulating people. Where did they learn that from? However, the premise for them acquiring Ye Luo through such means was that Ye Luo was truly just a filler player on the roster. Who could imagine that Ye Luo is now Malaga's secret weapon on the road, the core player of the team's counter-attacking tactics? The match roster is announced 2 days before the game. So, at this moment, in Real Madrid's training ground, in head coach Mourinho's office, lies the match roster of his next opponent. Mourinho is undoubtedly a very cautious coach. Even though Málaga seems to pose no real threat to Real Madrid, Mourinho still meticulously completes his work, studying the opponent, formulating tactics, calming public opinion, and gradually injecting confidence and motivation into Real Madrid, a team that has just completed its rebuilding. Before Mourinho took over, Real Madrid was jokingly called the round of 16 in the Champions League. They possessed the most dazzling lineup and the biggest stars in the world, and were also the team with the most Champions League titles in history. Yet, this very team had been eliminated in the round of 16 for several consecutive years. In domestic competitions, they were also overshadowed by their rising arch-rivals, Barcelona, Guardiola's dominant force. Especially in the last league match, at Camp Nou, Real Madrid suffered a humiliating defeat, losing 1-5 away to their arch-rivals. Therefore, in this match, Mourinho emphasized in training these past few days that their only goal was victory. And a resounding victory. Although a big win against Málaga couldn't completely erase the disappointment of the 1-5 loss to Barcelona, it at least demonstrated Real Madrid's determination. And this loss might not necessarily be a bad thing. It would make Real Madrid stars realize that to defeat a formidable opponent, they need to unite around coach Mourinho and execute the coaching staff's tactics. That loss was, in fact, caused by the individualistic behavior of a few stars, leading to complete tactical collapse, resulting in a humiliating defeat. Therefore, for Mourinho, the 1-5 loss to Barcelona could, in a way, be an opportunity to solidify the team. He needed to transform this star-studded team into a formidable fighting force. He needed warriors who would give their all on the pitch, not playboys concerned with their hair gel. From this point, he clearly gained the support of the Real Madrid dressing room, because they shared a common enemy, Barcelona. Mourinho capitalized on this, constantly using Barcelona to provoke Real Madrid players throughout his later tenure, continuously fueling their fighting spirit by creating greater antagonism between Barcelona and Real Madrid. This became one of the key reasons for the later split between Real Madrid's Spanish international and Mourinho. Why Ye Luo? Mourinho looked at the unfamiliar name. He then asked his assistant, Kiranka, who is this person? Kiranka stared at the name, then glanced at the OK part. Unfamiliar. He's probably a youth player making his first appearance on Malaga's roster. Judging from the spelling, he's probably from the East. The East? A Chinese? Mourinho pondered for a moment. Kiranka said, this might just be someone promoted from the youth academy to fill out the squad. We don't need to waste our energy paying attention to him. But I'm really curious about a kid who's likely from China suddenly appearing on the La Liga pitch. What makes him so appealing to Pellegrini? Mourinho said. He thought for a moment and said, we shouldn't overlook any details. I need his information, all of it. Mourinho pointed loudly at Ye Luo on the list. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22. Guess the starting lineup. Mourinho's Ye Luo, Bernabeu's newcomer shocks the Spanish team. Chapter 21. Mourinho praises Ye Luo's starting lineup. Bernabeu newcomer shocks Spain. Soon, Ye Luo's information was presented to Mourinho. This included video footage of Ye Luo's match against the Chinese Olympic team. After reviewing Ye Luo's complete file, especially his ball-handling performance against the Chinese Olympic team, Mourinho fell into deep thought. After a long while, he pointed to the name and said, "Edit his video and send it to our defenders." Karanka hesitated for a moment. "You think he'll get a chance to play?" Mourinho turned to Karanka and said, "I don't know what Pellegrini thinks, but if it were me, guess what I would do?" The Portuguese coach kept everyone in suspense. But before Karanka could answer, he took a deep breath and said, "I would start him, even build tactics around him, if I were the coach of Málaga." A slight smile appeared on Mourinho's lips as he looked back at the screen in his office, which was repeatedly replaying the scene of Ye Luo controlling a long pass. "I would start him." Karanka frowned. "Will he start? Does Pellegrini have the guts?" "I don't know, but his situation is actually similar to ours. We need to restore the team's confidence in this game, and if they don't win soon, Pellegrini's position will be in jeopardy." Mourinho shrugged. "Emphasize to our players that our opponent in this game is very likely to be this little guy." Time flies. Soon it was match day. The day before the match, Málaga arrived in Madrid and checked into a hotel not far from the Bernabeu. At 3 p.m. the next day, 2 hours before the match, the team woke up from their afternoon nap and boarded the bus to the Bernabeu. As usual, on the bus, the team's head coach, Pellegrini, announced the starting 11 for the match. The goalkeeper was Captain Arno. The centre-back pairing was also unsurprising, with two local players, Manu Torres and Ivan Gonzalez, partnering. The left-back was Portuguese player Nazário. The right-back was local player Gaspar. In midfield, two defensive midfielders, Joanito and Apanaho, anchored the centre. On the wings, Elasu, a Portuguese player with excellent stamina and a dynamic running ability, was positioned on the left, while Sandro Silva from Brazil played on the right. 4 defenders and 4 midfielders left only 2 positions for the forwards. Forward, Edinho. Pellegrini announced. Only one spot remained in the starting 11. Everyone's eyes turned to Ye Luo. Sure enough, Pellegrini's next words were, "Ye Luo." Although he had expected it, Ye Luo couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and grin after hearing Pellegrini announce that a starting forward position was his. La Liga. Here I come. Ling. Congratulations on completing the main quest, entering the first team starting lineup. You have received the quest reward, Fusion Points 3, B-grade random treasure chest 1. Amidst the congratulations, Ye Luo opened the B-grade treasure chest. Ling. Congratulations on obtaining the item, Shooting Boots, grade B. Item, Shooting Boots, grade B effect, automatically corrects the shooting trajectory by 10 cm towards the 10/10ths angle. 10/10ths angle refers to the right angle between the crossbar and post, and the right angle between the post and the grass. Durability. 2/2, 1 durability point is consumed per match. What a great item. It's just a pity that it can only be used for 2 matches. Ye Luo shook his head regretfully. He had 3 fusion points, just enough for 1 fusion. After fusion, the fusion progress of the 3 SS grade templates was 37%. Next should be a new main quest. Could it be scoring the first La Liga goal? As Ye Luo anticipated, the system displayed the main quest, defeat Real Madrid in this round of the league. Quest rewards, Fusion Point 6, grade a random treasure chest 1 quest failure penalty, suspension of main and side quest distribution for 1 month, and the quest system will be closed for 1 month? Ye Luo looked puzzled. Defeat Real Madrid. Damn it, system, you're a real dog. With the announcement of the match roster, the team bus slowly pulled into Real Madrid's home stadium, the Santiago Bernabeu Stadium. Ye Luo had never even seen this stadium live, let alone come to play a match here. It's one of the most famous football stadiums in the world, named after Real Madrid legend Santiago Bernabeu. Even before getting off the bus, Ye Luo could feel the stadium's aura. The Bernabeu, with a capacity of over 80,000, wasn't full for this match, partly due to Real Madrid fans' protest against Real Madrid's heavy defeat to Barcelona in the previous league round. Real Madrid fans are very demanding, they won't hesitate to boo when their team performs poorly. Therefore, according to pre-match statistics, only about 60,000 fans attended this match. Even so, the sheer number of fans created was enormous. Upon entering the away team's locker room, Assistant coach Marosca began shouting loudly. Quick, quick. Change your clothes, change your gear, go warm up. Get your bodies warmed up. Urged by the assistant coach, Ye Luo methodically changed into his warm-up clothes and shoes. He and the other 17 players from the team walked through the Bernabeu player tunnel and entered the Bernabeu stadium. Boom. The sound of the ball hitting the pitch seemed to vibrate the air and resonate in his chest. Ye Luo took a deep breath. What is a grand stage? This is a grand stage. An hour before the match, in the Bernabeu press room, everyone was waiting for both sides to announce their starting lineups. Real Madrid's starting lineup was revealed first. There were few surprises. Goalkeeper, Casillas, center-backs, Pepe and Ramos, left-back, Marcelo, right-back, Arbeloa, double pivot, Khedira and Xabi Alonso, attacking midfielder, German player, the beggar, Ballon d'Or winner Kaká was relegated to the bench. Up front, Cristiano Ronaldo, Higuain, and Di Maria. A lineup of unparalleled luxury. Let alone the starting lineup. Look at their substitutes, Kaká, Benzema, Carvalho, Lastiara, Gago. That's the depth of Real Madrid's squad. Meanwhile, Malaga's lineup seemed far too meager. The players up front weren't much of a surprise. The only surprise was that all the reporters were staring at one name. 41 Ye Luo. Who is Ye Luo? This was the unanimous question from all the Spanish reporters. This completely unfamiliar name, why was he in the starting lineup against a super club like Real Madrid? Chapter 23, Malaga fans have no hope for a rebound, Ye Luo's national team career is over. Chapter 22, Malaga fans' hopes faded, Ye Luo's national team career ended. PFFT. As reporter Rorites chuckled. The reporters in the press room all turned to look at this well-known as journalist. Does Malaga have no one else? 17 years old, from China, never had a professional team appearance. Ha, Rorites sneered. What is Pellegrini trying to do by sending in such a young guy? To humiliate Real Madrid? It's incomprehensible. The Spanish reporters present shook their heads. This Rorites was a mad dog. Pellegrini had already been sacked, yet he still wouldn't let go. Last season when Pellegrini was coaching Real Madrid, this as reporter was Pellegrini's #1 opponent. The feud between the two sides was considerable. Now, Ye Luo was at most an innocent bystander. One could imagine that there wouldn't be any good words about Ye Luo in this as reporter's article. But what was Pellegrini's reasoning in fielding a 17-year-old against a team like Real Madrid? A strategic retreat? Unlikely. Pellegrini's dismissal last season was somewhat unpleasant. How could he easily concede defeat at the Bernabeu? Perhaps Pellegrini thinks this guy can perform against a defense composed of Ramos, Pepe, Marcelo, and Arbeloa, a local Madrid reporter said, shrugging. This remark drew scornful laughter from many Madrid residents. The faces of the Malaga reporters instantly darkened. The condescension of big clubs was truly unpleasant. However, they had little to say. Real Madrid's backup was Kaká. Malaga, on the other hand, could only pull an unknown player from their youth academy when they were short of strikers. That was the difference between Real Madrid and Malaga. A Malaga reporter showed some disappointment. Someone comforted him, there's nothing to be disappointed about. This is the Bernabeu, isn't it? Yes. This is the Bernabeu. The journalist, also a Malaga fan, wore a bitter smile. Historically, Malaga and Real Madrid have faced each other 71 times, with Malaga winning only a handful of matches. 3 wins, all at home. 59 losses, and 8 draws. That's the total record. And away from home? Malaga has only managed 2 draws against Real Madrid, losing 31 times. Perhaps no one remembers what a small team like Malaga has experienced at the Bernabeu. But for Malaga fans, losing at the Bernabeu is just another ordinary memory among countless defeats. Even losing to Real Madrid isn't unacceptable for a small club like Malaga. Well, the Malaga journalist shook his head. I just had illusions about Pellegrini before the match. 4 winless rounds, Malaga fans were hoping for a rebound. But now it seems that expecting a strong comeback against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu is really wishful thinking. If the Spanish journalists in the press room were merely curious and puzzled by Ye Luo's starting position, then among Chinese football fans, it was an earthquake, a tsunami. Ye Luo started against Real Madrid. Holy crap! Holy crap! The first Chinese player in history to play against Real Madrid in an official match? Incredible. Did some self-media accounts say a few days ago that Ye Luo's spot on the roster was bought? What a bunch of bastards. It was that ID who said it first. I know that, is that guy Mardexon. So damn Mardexon. That guy will write anything as long as he gets paid. Looks like the Football Association hired someone to smear Ye Luo. What a grudge. The Football Association is a bunch of idiots. They can't even manage football, they only do this kind of stuff. The most dumbfounded person right now was Mardexon, sitting at his desk, watching the news coming from the match. There weren't any major clashes between top clubs this weekend. Therefore, matches involving giants like Real Madrid were naturally the focus of media attention. Mardexon was already following the starting lineups as soon as they were announced. While football news primarily focuses on domestic football, the Chinese Super League season is now over, so they also need to cover international football news. When he saw the starting lineups for this match, Mardexon was stunned. He thought about how hard he'd worked these past few days, even using his own verified Weibo account to smear Ye Luo. He'd completely lowered his already low standards even further. His reason for this was to offset the positive impact of Ye Luo's inclusion in Malaga's squad on domestic football. According to the Football Association's instructions, Ye Luo couldn't have a positive image. And as the only Chinese player currently representing China in one of the top 5 European leagues, Ye Luo's influence on domestic fans would be enormous. Under these circumstances, to balance the impact of this situation, Mardexon naturally had to use all his strength to completely disrupt public opinion. It has to be said, Mardexon's writing skills are quite high. Otherwise, he wouldn't be a well-known journalist. However, once the starting lineup was announced, all of Mardexon's performance over the past 2 days turned into a clown's exposure. He really didn't expect Ye Luo to actually be in the starting lineup. While domestic fans are easily swayed by media reports, they aren't fools. Malaga is, after all, a La Liga team. A prestigious La Liga team selling its starting lineup? It's a joke. After all, not all football in other countries is as shameless as the bunch of scoundrels in China's football scene. Meanwhile, at the Football Association headquarters, General Manager Chang Zuiyun was furious. These past few days, his biggest concern was Ye Luo's situation. Being slapped across the face by a mere kid on live television in Spain was an utter disgrace for Chang Zuiyun, who had risen from a port worker to his current position. He initially thought Ye Luo was just a small ant, easily crushed. But now, the more this kid jumped around, the more famous he became. Chang Zuiyun is, after all, Chang Zuiyun. He'd seen it all. Though inwardly furious, his expression remained subtly unchanged. He knew that regardless of Ye Luo's performance against Real Madrid, he couldn't be definitively discredited for the time being. He quickly instructed Mardexon and other mouthpieces to keep a low profile and avoid further provoking public opinion. But this didn't mean he'd given up. Chang Zuiyun now held a deep grudge against Ye Luo. No national team should want a player like that. Furthermore, the Football Association should hold a review meeting to examine why the Olympic team recruited such a troublemaker. The national team, the women's national team, and all levels of local football associations should learn from this. Chang Zuiyun calmly condemned Ye Luo's future in Chinese football to the deepest depths. He wanted to use Ye Luo as a prime example of disorganization and lack of discipline, subjecting him to comprehensive criticism within the football system. This way, even if Ye Luo played exceptionally well in the future, he would never have a chance to join the national team again. His official status was completely ruined. Chapter 24 Mu sees through Real Madrid's hopes for a big win. Ye Luo, unwilling to admit defeat, stands confidently. Chapter 23 Moreno sees through Real Madrid's hope for a big victory. Ye Luo stands out with confidence. When the Real Madrid players returned from warm-up, they saw their coach, Moreno, with a rather smug expression. The players exchanged glances, while seeing admiration on each other's faces. Upon seeing the opposing team's 18-man squad, Moreno had predicted that the Chinese player named Ye Luo was highly likely to start, and had even analyzed Ye Luo's characteristics and his match videos. The players hadn't initially thought Pellegrini had the audacity to suddenly put a 17-year-old player on the Bernabeu to face Real Madrid. But as it turned out, Moreno was right. This gave the Real Madrid players a huge psychological boost. Their opponents were a venomous snake trying to conceal their killer move, but their own coach had seen through it. Therefore, the opponent was destined to lose. Their pre-match strategy had been exposed. This is their secret weapon, Moreno said with a smirk. His expression was full of mockery and arrogance, as if Pellegrini's meticulous arrangements had become the biggest joke in his eyes. This made the Real Madrid players smile as well. The home team's locker room was filled with a joyful atmosphere. The Real Madrid players and coaches were in high spirits. The gloom of the defeat at Camp Nou 2 weeks ago seemed to have dissipated considerably. Seeing the players' smiles, Mourinho smiled as well. He didn't believe Malaga had any ability to threaten Real Madrid. Regarding this match, if anything unexpected happened, it would be because Real Madrid themselves had made mistakes. And now, with smiles on the faces of Real Madrid stars, Malaga had absolutely no chance. These stars only needed to show 1% of their talent on the field to easily defeat their opponents. Thinking of this, Mourinho's expression turned serious. Of course, I know that our opponent today isn't a strong team. I shouldn't be demanding anything from you against such an opponent. Mourinho paused slightly, waiting for the Real Madrid players to stop smiling. He continued, "The last league match was a disgrace for us. Only we can wash away that disgrace ourselves. Fortunately, we still have the chance to face them at home." They didn't refer to Malaga, of course. It was Real Madrid's arch-rivals, Barcelona. "I fucking want to face them in this match." Cristiano Ronaldo clenched his fists, gritted his teeth, and a fierce expression appeared on his handsome face. Mourinho was satisfied with Ronaldo's attitude. "But unfortunately, we have to wait another dozen league matches before we can meet them again. Until then, we need to suppress our desire for revenge. We need to make sure we don't fall behind when we face them at home. We need to beat them at home. We need to overtake them at home." Mourinho shouted, clenching his fists. The Real Madrid players' breathing became heavy. This made Carranca, standing behind Mourinho, apologize to Pellegrini in his heart. It really was a bit much. Facing an opponent like Malaga, Mourinho still had to incite his players to the state. However, Carranca could understand. Because Real Madrid needed a resounding victory in this match. A decisive and dominant win. Meanwhile, in the away team's locker room, the Malaga players returned to their seats. The starting players were making their final preparations, changing into their jerseys, socks, and boots, and inserting shin guards. Ye Luo was no exception. This match was incredibly important to him. It was his professional league debut, and a debut he couldn't afford to lose. If he didn't win, his mission system would be shut down for 2 months, an outcome Ye Luo would never tolerate. He had to win. He donned the B-grade shooting boots and inserted the C-grade bare shin guards, doing everything possible to improve his abilities. When all the players were ready, there were only 10 minutes left before the match began. Clap. A crisp round of applause rang out. Coach Pellegrini entered the center of the locker room. Everyone fell silent. They knew the coach was about to give his final pre-match pep talk. For most of the Malaga players, they wouldn't give up, but they also knew that defeating Real Madrid would be difficult. Everyone knows Ye Luo is very skilled, but whether he can perform well in this situation is anyone's guess. This match is a gamble for Malaga. Fortunately, even if they lose, it won't be a big deal, because no one expects Malaga to beat Real Madrid. That's unrealistic. I know what you're thinking, isn't it crazy for us to want to beat Real Madrid at the Bernabeu? Pellegrini said. But there are many crazy things in this world. Why can't we dream of doing something crazy? Beat Real Madrid, maybe it'll be the best match of your careers. Isn't it worth going all out for that? Besides, haven't we been working hard these past few days for this match? As Pellegrini finished speaking, all eyes turned to Ye Luo. The key to winning was defending well and scoring goals. Defensively, Malaga had 10 players ready to defend. And Ye Luo's only task was to use his individual ability to attack and challenge Real Madrid's defenders, whether it was Ramos or Pepe. It was still Marcelo and Arbeloa. He had to beat them. The stronger his impact, the less pressure the other Malaga players would face. If he could help the team score, whether by scoring himself or by using his individual ability to draw defenders and then setting up an assist for his strike partner Ronaldinho, then Malaga's chances of winning this match would increase slightly. Seeing everyone's eyes on him, Ye Luo suddenly stood up, startling Pellegrini. He hadn't finished speaking yet. But Ye Luo didn't notice this. He was somewhat angry because he felt his teammates seemed too intimidated by Real Madrid. Guys, I know how strong our opponents are, how famous they are, and how luxurious their squad is. Ye Luo's Spanish was much more fluent than 2 weeks ago. But why should we be afraid of them? I think they should be afraid, They lost 1-5 to Barcelona 2 weeks ago. Ye Luo held up 5 fingers. They conceded 5 goals. 5. So everyone knows what they're trying to do in this match. They can't beat Barcelona, so they want to cause trouble for us to vent their frustration. But screw them. Why should we be their punching bag? They were angry? I'm angry too. I'm going to make sure they can't vent their anger. I'm going to make them feel suffocated, so suffocated they can't even shoot. Ye Luo made a hip-thrusting motion. The crowd burst into laughter. But at the same time, their fear of Real Madrid vanished amidst the laughter. Is Chapter 25 really necessary? Chapter 24, is this necessary? Everyone burst into laughter. Ye Luo was also extremely excited. Everyone, this is my debut match, and I don't want to mess it up. I want to get the best results from this match, so, please. If we win this match, I'll treat everyone to Chinese food. Absolutely authentic Chinese food. Ye Luo patted his chest and promised. It wasn't that he lacked emotional intelligence, nor that he didn't know how to build relationships. But when it came to matters of principle, Ye Luo's personality simply couldn't compromise. Under Ye Luo's influence, everyone's emotions and fighting spirit soared. What are you saying? This is our match too. Give it your all, young man. Are you questioning my sportsmanship? Now that you mention it, I suddenly really want to win at the Bernabeu. Being used as a punching bag is really unpleasant. Everyone expressed their opinions. Beat them. Ye Luo shouted. Then Captain Arno also stood up. Let them hold back. Let them hold back. Everyone shouted in unison. Then, full of fighting spirit, he walked out of the locker room and onto the field, leaving the somewhat bewildered head coach and assistant coach behind. After the players left, Pellegrini thought about his pre-match preparations and realized that they weren't as good as Ye Luo's assessment. It seemed his preparations had been in vain. But as long as it achieved the desired effect, that was fine. He smiled and said to his assistant, Marluska, to be honest, this is the first time I've seen a 17-year-old player have such a pre-match performance in his professional debut. Marluska nodded and said, very good pre-match motivation. The kid has the potential to be a team captain. As the players from both sides appeared in the player tunnel, the Real Madrid players frequently turned to look at the 17-year-old boy from China. To receive Marino's approval, this kid must have some ability. The Real Madrid players all had a hint of amusement on their faces. Poor little guy. He's definitely trying to surprise us now. But you were seen through by our cunning head coach. This is really unlucky for you. Soon, the players entered the field. The moment Ye Luo stepped off the pitch, his head involuntarily darted around, looking in all directions. This was the Bernabeu. Before this, he had never been here before. Now, standing in this world-famous stadium, the curiosity and amazement in Ye Luo's eyes were palpable, making the Real Madrid players a little skeptical. Was this kid really as good as Marino said? Stop looking. Ye Luo's strike partner, Ho, patted him on the shoulder from behind, embarrassed by his teammate's somewhat unsophisticated behavior. Ye Luo muttered as he walked, this is my first time at the Bernabeu. If you stay in La Liga, you can come at least once a year. It's just one of 20 La Liga team stadiums, nothing special, Ho said. That's true. Ye Luo turned his head, looking straight ahead. His curiosity about the Bernabeu seemed to vanish instantly. I'm here to fight, not for tourism, Ye Luo thought. The players shook hands. Real Madrid defender Arbeloa patted Ye Luo on the shoulder, a hint of sympathy on his face. Ye Luo mainly plays on the left wing, which happens to be Arbeloa's matchup. Although Ye Luo and Ronaldinho will play as a two-striker formation in this match, and Ye Luo's position won't be fixed on the left, given his playing habits, he will likely lean more to the left. Therefore, Arbeloa is very likely to be matched up against Ye Luo in this game. It's a pity for the young man, his debut will probably end in bitterness. As the players from both sides settled into their positions, the camera focused on Ye Luo. The handsome young man stood proudly in the middle of the team. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ye Luo. He is about to play for Málaga, and he will set a record, the youngest Chinese player to make a league appearance in one of the top 5 European leagues. The voice of Duan Zhuan, the commentator for the national television station, rang out. The match is about to begin. If there's anyone worth watching in Real Madrid's opponent's lineup, it's this 17-year-old prodigy, Ye Luo, from China, who's about to make his professional debut. He might be the biggest variable in this game. COPE TV commentator Andres Montes exclaimed. The coin toss was made, and the two coaches shook hands. A sudden cheer erupted from the stands. The clamor of match day. All of this was intertwining. Ye Luo, standing amidst it all, felt as if every pore on his body had opened up. The Bernabeu's lights were soft, not at all glaring. He looked up at the pitch. His body trembled slightly. Not from nervousness, but from excitement. This was the stage a player should aspire to. Real Madrid fans waved white flags. The Bernabeu stands were magnificent. Real Madrid's anthems resounded throughout the stadium. I will conquer this place, Ye Luo thought. Edinho stomped the ball under his foot, muttering to himself, pass the ball more, ask for more, run more, be patient. Our opponent is Real Madrid. We'll look for you first when we win the ball. If that doesn't work, hold on to possession, I'll come up to support you. Edinho meant well. This Portuguese striker hadn't scored many goals, but he was an honest, hard-working, and dedicated player in the locker room. He'd been with Málaga for years, and every coach had favored him. Whether a starter or a substitute, simply because this Portuguese striker was obedient, had good stamina, and faithfully executed tactics. Okay, Edinho. Ye Luo said, his eyes fixed on the Real Madrid goal. With a referee's whistle, Edinho passed a ball to Ye Luo, who passed it back to midfield. Then, head down, he sprinted forward. At the same time, Real Madrid's players quickly pressed forward, preparing to use their high pressure in the midfield and attacking third to win back possession. Possession returned to centre-back Ivan Gonzalez. Real Madrid striker Gonzalo Higuain had already surged forward. Cristiano Ronaldo on the other side, and Di Maria on the right, pounced like tigers descending a mountain. Real Madrid's players have shown an amazing level of commitment from the very beginning, exclaimed COPE commentator Andres Montes. Ivan Gonzalez glanced ahead, only vaguely spotting Ye Luo's direction before unleashing a powerful kick. The ball arced through the air, landing in front of Ye Luo's running position. At the same time, Arbeloa and Khedira were also rapidly closing in on Ye Luo. This scene made Pellegrini frown. Was it necessary to double-team a 17-year-old player with a defensive midfielder and a fullback? He looked at Mourinho. He saw the Portuguese manager with a faint smile on his lips. That smile was truly irritating. Pellegrini thought. He turned his head to look at the attacking third. His brows furrowed even more. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.